Let's see if this works. If so, this will be revolutionary. And I won't even need to go into YouTube Studio.
Oh, you can actually just stream straight from OBS to YouTube without having to do anything.
I'm pretty sure. I'm waiting for it. I'm checking on my phone to see if it's gonna come.
Oh, you're on. Okay.
I'm on.
Yeah, you're live.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
We are live from New York City.
I wish.
It's still showing up. It's not showing up on my phone. I'm gonna wait till. Oh, yep. You're good.
You're on. Ooh, love hearing my own voice. It's nice.
All right, folks. So it looks like we are all good to go. Can the stream chat hear me? All right. Just want to do audio checks and everything before we get started. I think everybody's able to.
I think the audio is correct. Yeah, I can hear you.
All
yeah,
right.
that sounds good.
Sweet.
Yeah, cool.
Looks like we got some folks that are able to hear us. All right, everybody. So us as a group, we've already done sort of like a podcast thing. So if you want like a more detailed introduction, you can go there. It's on my channel. Jared joined in a little bit later, but he's also had his own interview. But if everybody wouldn't mind just giving like a rather brief summary of who you guys are and like just sort of introduce yourselves, that would be great.
Hell yeah. Well, I'll start. I'm Covingsworth, or Cov, environment artist, prop artist, and hoping to get into film production, and currently working with CG Booth to build a big environment course on urban environments. So, yeah.
Sweet. How about Jared? Do you mind going next?
Yeah, I'm a 3D generalist. I spent a year with a visual effects studio working on some shows such as HBO's The Last of Us. I focus mainly on lighting and environments. I also am a bit of a foliage specialist.
Yeah, foliage, bro. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Martin,
Hell
are
yeah.
you eating or do you want to?
I'm here. Okay, so I'm Maarten. I'm a business student that got lost on his way to class and ended up sitting behind his computer and creating environments in Blender. I'm pretty new to the whole like sharing on YouTube thing. And yeah, so that's me.
Sweet.
Go.
Actually, first I want to talk about something. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up. Let me stream on the Discord. So, Martin a couple days ago released one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I want you guys all to see that. Martin, you don't mind if I pull it up, right?
Go ahead.
It is pretty insane, dude.
Yeah.
I honestly did not expect the response that I got.
Yeah,
So
people
I
are
made-
loving it.
Yeah, no, I was honestly like super surprised because I thought people would like come for tutorials, but then like the super positive feedback on the actual like just breakdown was also pretty
Yeah.
pretty crazy experience.
Yeah.
I would like to actually talk to you a little bit sometime today about how you do your breakdowns and such, because that's also like it's really nice to see, because you get like an actual impression of like how the thing was created.
Yeah, no, I mean this foliage stuff, of course, is just I stole that idea straight from Jared. I just saw his ArtStation post with the little spinny things. I was like, I need to do this. This is professional looking.
Yeah, I recognize that.
Oh, thanks.
And I think a lot of the other stuff, like with breakdown stuff, I of course make work in progress renders, so I just render my scene throughout the the creation of it. And then this, like the layer breakdown, it's actually really easy to do if you just use a multi-layer EXR workflow where you just split up all the render layers. So like diffuse or glossy, you split them up, and then when you're like putting it all back together in After Effects, of course, you just render each out on its own and just really quickly make a breakdown.
Certainly. So if you don't mind me picking your brain a little bit more about this, because obviously like this is a very large scale environment. Like you've got a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah,
And as kind of an environment noob myself, at least relatively speaking, I don't know how, like I got more VRAM than you, and even I am running out of VRAM constantly. Do you
Yeah,
have
that's
any
definitely
like tips and
okay.
tricks, or is it like more sort of an intuitive
No,
calculation?
it's of course like I used to work on a 1060 forever, so a 3060 for me is actually kind of new. Like I only have it for a few months. So I've always kind of worked with like a VRAM, like let's say a lack of VRAM, but due to that, I guess it's become sort of intuitive, the actual like saving memory and stuff. But it's very applicable for everybody. So yeah, I mean you can pull up the ArtStation. I think there's like it's a bit easier to see all the different layers and
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, for let's say like optimizing your scene. So I made this scene with the pure goal of just being like proving that Blender can do, you know, ridiculous amounts of, you know, like distance and like objects
Mm-hmm.
and all that kind of stuff. I really sat down and was like, all right, I did the Mandalorian shot. I scattered a bunch of high poly trees everywhere. You know, it wasn't a very interesting shot in my opinion, the environment itself, but it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like a proof of concept that it could be done. So, and then, yeah, this was, of course, my, yeah, I guess, taking it to the next step kind of thing, where I was like, all right, I'm going to take the lessons I learned from the Mandalorian shot and apply them and find out new things as well. And really make a shot that has a close foreground and then a mid ground, basically, where the monastery is, and then a background all in one scene and in one render. And yeah, it was very possible due to, well, instancing, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and of course just like very much like how do you say it, saving up on textures and that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
also making like broad use of scattering instead of modifiers. So yeah, I can start with like the foreground. That's kind of how I started. It's pretty much just a plane sculpted a bit, and it used to have an adaptive subdivision on it, for example, to really, you know, get nice foreground details.
Mm-hmm.
However, that takes up a lot of memory. Like adaptive subdivision is like easily 2 or 3 gigs, depending on how much, of course. But it's a heavy modifier. So what I did instead, eventually took it away and then scattered these tiny little twigs and rocks on the sand to just to like give it some kind of like detail, you know, and like make it look realistic, I suppose, without actually really using any memory because all these rocks and twigs are instanced. So
Mm-hmm.
you're probably using maybe 100 megabytes of VRAM to actually do that. And then I use Scatter 5 personally to scatter all my assets around. So they have like a manual scatter option where you can literally just paint stuff in. And yeah, that's a really easy way to like instance without having to spend a lot of time, of course, like maybe weight painting and all that kind of stuff.
For sure. I
Um,
wanted to pull something up of mine that I think might be
mhm.
relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's tutorials.
But to continue on like the how I optimize as well, it's a lot of people often I feel like due to the accessibility of 4K textures, just download 4K textures and use 4K textures as a standard, and I do that myself as well. And I found myself in the end of this shot when I was starting to render, and of course seeing like either insane render times or just like no render at all, you know, system out of GPU memory.
Yep.
So I found myself just literally going through all the textures in this whole scene and really deciding like where is a 4K texture even needed. And I think the only 4K textures at the end are the sand texture for the road, because I
Mhm.
thought if there's any pixelation in the bump there, it would be noticeable. And only the diffuse texture, so the color of the fence, because it gets kind of close to your, you know, to the
Yeah,
view.
yeah.
But the normal map and the bump map and stuff is all yeah, 2K. Also, another thing, when we use PBR texturing, we're very used to just having, you know, an albedo, then you have a roughness, maybe even a specular, a normal, and a displacement map. So you have a bunch of textures there. While in most cases, you're fine using only the albedo, and then you can use a color ramp to kind of make your own roughness map with the albedo. That looks pretty convincing. And then use a normal map, and you're good. You don't need the displacement to add extra bump on every object. You know, a normal map's fine. So really go through every material, delete any unnecessary, you know, textures and that kind of stuff. use 2K textures or even 1K textures, and that's how you can
Yeah, you
free
could
up.
probably even get away with like 512 on some of these leaves.
Honestly, yeah. So like that's the thing. Like I think I didn't even like I got lazy, so like I just changed most of the stuff to 2K. But if I really went through it all, I could have like changed the texture of the monastery like to a 1K texture, like 512. Like it's totally unnecessary even to have like a 2K texture in the background because nobody can see that.
Yeah.
Also, to your point about using the color ramp with the roughness, depending on the use of it, you can also use it into a bump node to
Yeah,
get a
yeah,
little bit of bump.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You can really like of course materials like themselves do have a little bit of VRAM that they use, but yeah, again, it's way less than a texture.
Yeah.
So you can get away with a lot.
Case in point, this doesn't even hit 1 gig, despite it almost hitting the node limit.
Yeah, so that exactly. You're better off just like often, well, I don't know about procedural, but like, using one texture and just playing around with the shader nodes to create something interesting.
Yeah, procedural has a very different set of problems than textures. It's much more memory efficient, but it also renders a bit slower because obviously more calculations. Anyways,
Yeah.
I wanted to show this. So this is work in progress for an upcoming tutorial. And I've got some tricks for it because this is like an asteroid field sort of thing, right? So it needs a lot of tiny rocks and such. So obviously you need to make sure like everything is like really down solid. So what I do for these small rocks is like I have them shaded as bounds, but they're actually just a bunch of tiny rocks. Let me see. Okay, it's updating lights.
Oh, look at that.
Right? These are
These are volumes, right?
No, they're like just they're meshes.
Oh, this is. Oh,
Are
okay.
they instanced or are they actual geometry?
They're actual. So these are like the base particles that I am instancing. These are created with geometry nodes, like literally volume cube sort of stuff, and then you can just sort of apply a slight bit of displacement to break up the grid, and that's good. And I got some procedural gas giants in the background there.
And like this kind of stuff is great because that's like a principle I think everybody should understand is like use a few assets and like use them in like a very diverse way. So like for you have like a few like rock field or like asteroid field assets, and then you can just scatter them around and create these massive asteroid fields, instancing everything.
Yeah,
But
right.
that's kind of like similar to what I did with like in my big scene. You have big, huge rock falls and like these huge boulders and like tree logs and stuff, falling down a mountain. And then I used those same assets, those logs and boulders, and I just made them super tiny. And now they're like little twigs and little tiny like pebbles on the ground. Like you can use one asset for so many different things.
Yeah, and I've got like these big guys, which are used for like the big rocks, and then also some little smaller rocks that are like medium sized. So yeah, I mean, it is very possible just to reuse everything just in a different context. That's like one of the main things that is important for good memory stuff. And unless you have like a Quadro, then it kind of goes out the window,
You can also buy a $10,000 PC and just say fuck it, and you're good.
Yeah. Or just like weasel your way into the industry, and then you're dealing with it.
Just make your personal renders, send them to their render farm, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then you get like ultra fast CPU render farms and some shit. They're just wild. Speaking of like industry BS and stuff, have you guys seen the Wandering Earth VFX breakdown?
I have
Nope.
not.
I don't think I saw the breakdown. I saw the trailer that got posted into the Discord a little while ago.
Is
there's
that
Wandering
Yeah.
Earth?
the Wandering Earth, the Wandering Earth 2 actually.
What is that?
It's a
It's a Chinese movie.
Yeah.
Chinese movie?
Yeah,
Okay.
Chinese sci-fi film.
Okay.
I have not seen this.
It
but
was interesting watching the trailer though, because there is we were kind of talking about it in the Discord, but there's kind of a range in terms of like the quality of the effects. There's some that are like, wow, that's actually like a really solid, really cool shot, and then there's some where it's like, did they use Kerbal Space Program for this?
Yeah.
I feel like I saw like, yeah, I was watching this movie on Netflix. It was also like a Chinese production. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like some shots of the environments were like so sick. I was like, wow, this is just insane. And then like
for those
another
that
shot would
are
be bootleg.
for those that are wondering about this, I posted it in the stream chat.
Can we do
it's
a
pretty easy
VFX
to-
artist react to this?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
let's all sit on a couch.
I don't want to get. I think we can.
I'm sure they
debating whether
won't
or not
copyright
that's-
strike you.
Yeah, so
You can-
long
That's
as we're
fine.
doing fair use.
We
I
gotta
think we're
react.
good.
We gotta
You can-
react.
Yeah, so you can grab a couple moments out of it. Like if you had some
Yeah.
specific shots, we can talk about those specific shots, and that would be fair use because we'll be talking over it. We won't be playing the thing in its entirety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
I
also
think we can
contacting.
even- I mean, we can
Oh,
certainly. Let's
As long as
just
we
do
pause it.
Yeah, let's just do a little bit, and then. I mean,
Yeah.
if this gets copyright claimed, I don't think we can. It's not a huge deal.
We just do a DMCA copyright strike speed run, you know?
Yeah.
See how long we can keep the stream up.
Can we get banned while we're live?
Yeah, I mean,
That's-
just so long. All right, we can pause it every once in a while, and then
I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
fine.
it's probably good.
Yeah, you can just scroll through at the bottom and like grab a.
All right, so I'm just gonna let this play for a little bit.
So it's a sci-fi movie, you said, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
sci-fi.
Okay.
Isn't it based off of like a graphic novel or something?
It's based off of a novel by Liu Cixin, I think is how you pronounce his name. There's actually one of his other series is being adapted. The Three Body Problem.
Oh yeah.
So
it's that
Chris,
guy. That's right.
I was talking on VC with some of my friends, and Chris, one of my friends said, "This is what would happen if we got Sam to make a movie because it's just so detail oriented. I would go completely over budget."
Actually, pause it real fast. I want to
Yeah.
comment on something. So
Do you want me to go back?
something. No, it's fine. It's about the way this sequence is put together. What people don't realize with these breakdowns, and I never really thought about it until I was like working at a studio too, is this isn't just like, hey guys, here's the shot we did and here's the elements. This is a production on its own.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like they had to
Yeah.
take a team
They
to
have to
put
re-render
together
this
this
as well.
animation, yeah, and render it all out and everything from scratch,
Mhm.
just to show us what they did.
I did
Yeah.
it once, like 3 years ago. I did one of those shots, like a breakdown where all the items like fell back into place from the top.
Yeah,
and,
how do
like,
you
it was
do
the-
that?
But that's
It,
so
I,
much
I
work.
hand animated it all, bro. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, you did.
There are ways to procedurally do it. Like for instance, even you can just even do it with displacement. Usually, just
Yeah,
hook that up.
yeah,
to,
I'm sure like
a
with
sketch or
geonodes as well. If you're scattering with geonodes, I'm sure you can like
Yeah.
make a little system so it, like, you know,
The
with an
transform
empty-
node
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
Z-axis
I
or
also
something.
just want to just address because a lot of the people in the Discord were like kind of going nuts about, oh my god, so many polys, and it's like, yeah, there are a ton of polys, but I think you also need to realize how much of this is duplicated and how much is like pulled in and out of the shots or used.
I
by the
have to say,
elevation
like,
system.
it looks kind of low poly though. Like if you look at some of the buildings, those look like
Mm-hmm.
very simple cutouts with simple textures. Like if you look at the windows right there on
Yeah.
the left, or it's just like very low res in my opinion. Like it looks
Especially a lot
impressive
of
because
these
it's so much.
or
I
just
think
Yeah.
the speed
almost
of the
cues.
camera kind of makes
Yeah.
up for a lot of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's certainly hiding a lot of the details too. By the way, a lot
I-
of the stuff that you see on the internet done by VFX artists looks more impressive than like if you had like actual their like blend file or whatever. Because they're
Oh
only
yeah,
showing-
100%.
they're
I
only
actually
the stuff that actually looks good.
exactly. They asked me to make a course. Like this website asked me to make a course, and I declined because I was like, I don't think I'm like actually like. I don't know. I still feel like I'm pretty like how do you call it? It's like I just do things on my own workflow and it works for me, but I wouldn't like teach somebody this, you know, and like say like, oh yeah, you'll be fine in the industry with doing this, you know, like
Yeah,
it's always pretty like janky
Yeah.
setup.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot of optimizations. I don't
Mhm.
know if these are actually low res buildings. I think they're pretty high res because I've seen a couple duplicates of them. I think.
they're
So-
probably also utilizing render layers.
Yeah. Oh,
A
yeah,
lot
for
of these
sure.
things are on their own layer and get rendered like entirely separately. So you're only
Yeah.
loading in like just the planes into
Yeah.
a scene, rendering out just the planes.
Mhm.
Same with the building, same with, you know,
Yeah.
the different
Yeah.
elements. and then you're just layering them over top of each other in the video.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, one of my favorite things about what I do is that I usually don't actually have to compromise on detail for certain shots, which is the fun thing. Because with procedurals, it's like all algorithmic, so you can get as much detail as you want. So that's just kind of
Yeah.
fun. But if you're doing something like hard surface modeling, you've either got to spend like a year on a project, or you kind of got to deal with, oh, this is only going to look good from a certain angle or a certain distance or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Not everything is like a portfolio piece.
Mhm.
But yeah, let's keep watching. Because even though like we just pointed out all of that, right? Like the planes are certainly being instanced and certainly they aren't like as high poly as they would be if you're like right next to them. Same with these buildings, right? Like even then though, this is still an incredible amount of work.
Yeah.
It's important to recognize that. And again, this is all speculation. I don't know what their studio looks like. It's not only a VFX studio, but it's also like a Chinese VFX studio. So it's like there's no way you're getting any like the hands on, or no. There's no.
We'll have him on our couch. We'll invite him over.
On any information about it, probably.
I gotta say, this looks kind of doable with Blender, and like I kind of want to like try this like a big city with like, because it is all instancing. I feel like and like the buildings
also,
here
like,
can be so low poly.
Yeah, and also like GIS, like there's a million tutorials about all that stuff, and like look at how blurry
Yeah.
this all is. Like I think like obviously in the movie it wouldn't be this blurry, but this video is.
Yeah, YouTube compression.
So there's probably a decent amount of detail. Yeah, it's fucking nuked that shit. There's probably actually a decent amount of detail in there, but like all of these can be reused and like over there or something. Plus, this is probably all kit bashed, that's my guess, because like these are.
There probably is a lot of it that is either that or they just made their own little kit bash out of like
That's what I'm
almost
guessing.
doing like almost Ian Hubert style, like small buildings with simple textures on them and then just scattering them around.
Yeah, or maybe they might be even like pretty high poly, but they just made this for like another movie and then just dropped the assets in. Like that happens, to my understanding, a reasonable amount.
This is a crazy shot.
It is. Oh yeah, it's about to get a lot crazier. This is a fun one. So this is like their Earth engines and stuff. This is where I don't really know what's going on here, but I don't think that there's this level of detail everywhere.
Yeah, this looks super insane put together, man.
So also something that will happen as a way that they like manage scenes this big is you'll have like a cut in the camera and you'll change like the background scene to like a much lower res one, or getting rid of the things that you don't need in the scene.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or even like just like for more like sub D stuff, like just killing the subdivision levels.
I just spotted an Ian Hubert asset.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's
Did you see the same thing?
Go back. I was looking at those little pieces that were flying in. I was like, no way.
Wait, go back a little bit more. Okay, yeah, look back a little bit more. It's like a piston. It's right after this shot. It's
these big guys.
Oh wait, are they? They look just like the Ian Hubert
Look how low res they are too. Look how low res that is. Or is that just YouTube messing with it?
I don't know.
It
looks really low res.
Yeah.
It's on. Yeah, I guess it's a mix of it.
Some of the stuff is definitely just like image textures and projected onto like cylinders and stuff like that.
That's what this is, I think.
But you had a good like. I don't understand because there's no way. Okay, so I don't know what this object is, or how it is seen in the movie. But there's no way that they have like the intricate structure of it built on the inside where you're not even gonna see it.
No, like when in a second when all the little parts fly into that machine, I'm 90% sure they just did that to make the breakdown look more complex.
Right.
There's no reason for all those polygons to be in there all that time.
I personally think they're kit bashing most of this. So they're probably
but like in the actual scene.
Well,
Maybe.
Also a lot of times because of the amount of RAM that is available to them in render farms, a lot of movie studios don't care as much about poly count.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that's true,
I've worked
that's
on
true.
some scenes that had some really, really intense amounts of geometry
Yeah.
when we probably could have gotten away with a lot less. But it was more
Yeah.
about we need to get this out, so optimizing it like fully, that's time that we don't have where it'll render faster than the amount of time that it would take to go through and
Right.
optimize everything.
Yeah. I also
Yeah.
want to address like what they're doing in here. Like it's actually you did mention like they have probably added stuff to make this look more complex. I don't actually think they did. But what I do notice is that they're splitting up everything, like even individual objects, into its constituent components,
Mm.
right? Like for instance, this sort of it's hard to see, but like this
Spring looking thing.
spring looking thing and that cylinder, like those are probably the same object in the actual thing. They're just separated, so
Yeah.
Right.
it's a little bit more motion. And you can see that
Yeah,
here
that's
as
true.
well, right? Like that's a ton of shit, but then realize like most of this shit just makes up one little
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you look on the left, it doesn't look that complex. Like,
yeah,
it looks really jarring.
but you can kind of see where like some of these objects fit in, like that little bit, this like little. I don't know. I'm not gonna try and point it out in like a.
I'm seeing like the
grainy-esque-
same object duplicated. Like it looks like there's like
Yeah.
8 different items here, but it's duplicated like hundreds of times.
Yeah, well, like
Yeah.
if I took apart like my thruster model, like easily, my thruster model would look probably about as complex as this if you just disassembled every single nut and bolt.
Right.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So it's not like a lot of this stuff is made to look a lot more impressive. And that's why you get like some of the wow factor. Like even us that have a decent amount of experience, and I mean most of us don't really have any industry experience, but Jared certainly does. Like we all like are sort of like wowed upon looking at this, but upon deeper evaluation, we're still like, wow, this is pretty cool. But it's like, okay, I can see how they did that.
Right.
I just feel bad for the asset artist who like put that much work in, and then it's like a distant shot, and he's like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, this entire movie. I mean, I don't want to diss it too hard, but it screams of overworked VFX artists. Like we'll look at some planet shots after this, and it's like, what the fuck?
I think that's a lot with VFX is the planning is actually such a huge part of it. Like we can all jump in, but like when it's actually for a production, like planning out shots and like how much effort you should put in each shot is way more of a skill that should like be like learned than the actual like technical skills. Because like if you look at Ian Hubert, he is so like janky and like just does everything just in his own style, and it isn't like, let's say, professional, but he knows where to put his time and effort in, and that's how he on his own is able to create like an insane looking VFX,
Yeah.
heavy
Really stunning results.
show. And it's just because he has mastered that, like, where am I using my time and effort, and where am I just skipping a lot of these steps.
I was talking
Yeah.
with a while back. I was talking with a fellow, Unknown Dino, who's just like a crazy talented artist. He does a lot of creature stuff, but we were talking about William Landgren, who I'm not sure are you guys aware of him?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like he's got the same sort of thing. Like he's a very scene focused artist. While someone like me, I'm like incredibly asset focused, right?
Yeah.
But it's like those people will have an easier time in the industry, likely, than somebody like me, because I'm more than willing to spend 50 hours doing something that is like 3 pixels.
Yeah.
Just because
I don't know.
it makes me. I mean,
I think you might be okay in the industry because they need people who do small parts and really put all their love into that part. And if you're like a scene-wide person, you might be too generalist for a studio.
I think there's
well-
kind of a mix. Like there's like especially at larger studios, there's usually an asset team and then there's an environment team, and those are kind of
Mhm.
separate things.
that's
And when
fair.
it comes to like how much time that you put into certain things, like that's where the supervisors will come in and be like, this is a hero asset, we need you to do it, like to this resolution so it can hold up
Mhm.
like right up against the camera. And then there'll be where it's like, oh, hey, here's a fence that we're gonna see from, like a environment level shot. Like, get something out in 2 days. Have it look good, but like we don't need it.
For
Right
sure.
up against the camera, and yeah.
I was just sort of talking about like self moderation mainly. Like
Yeah.
I'm even like as an asset artist, you're not supposed to really do everything. You're just supposed to do as much as is necessary for the final shot to look good. Like I wouldn't really be surprised if like, oh, I'm not going to comment on this specific shot because I don't really know the context of it in the movie. But I mean, a lot of this stuff is like the background elements are pretty simple, right? Like these are just a couple planes. Oh, okay. I eat my words on that.
Yeah, just a few planes there. Like 5 polygons probably.
Pretty simple stuff. I'm not gonna lie.
Well,
Really simple.
What this is though is this is a great exploration of like how the layering of certain objects and stuff really contributes to look on a hard surface model. Like for instance, you see this sort of base stuff, and that provides a background, and then you have like multiple layers of detail on top of it, right? And that just completely contributes to the shot.
Yeah, it's all about layering.
Like those planes that you pointed out are almost just like a backstop for the detail, where it's like, okay, we need something to go behind it so we can't see through the object.
Well, that's exactly what they are, right?
Yeah.
Like I do this on my models too, right? Like I just have, I try not to do it too often.
I actually
kind of see it.
I use that in a lot of my like forest environments. I have a picture that I took in the woods, and I'll put it way in the background to just extend the distance. That way I'm not, making an infinite amount of woods. And I just have after a certain point, now it's just a 2D plane.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you can also, one of the fun things, you can see the render noise in the stuff. It's pretty funny. You can kind of, let me see.
Oh yeah, you can. I actually really like this breakdown because it's like a lot, but at the same time, I don't know, it's like a level of quality where I'm like, I can achieve some, like maybe like half of this. So it makes me more inspired.
This is an incredibly impressive breakdown, though.
It is. Yeah, a lot of work went into this. And by the way, some of the people that are watching are like probably thinking like, why the fuck is he talking down this? Like we aren't. We're just sort of pointing out some stuff because a lot of this on first watch seems like inhumanly impossible, but then upon rewatch you can we're trying to help you guys like break down what's actually going on.
This is actually a tutorial. We're going to remake this scene in 30 minutes. So
inside of Blender.
Also, this is sort of trying to con you into thinking everything is this detailed, right? It's actually kind of not. Right.
Yeah, they definitely have some sneaky like hero objects placed amongst the scattering.
Yeah, and then you just like,
which is smart.
This shot in the movie, though, I imagine the camera is kind of the same, and what they're doing that's different is they're showing like the elements snapping in.
Yeah.
So when they come up close on objects like this in the movie, I imagine like these are the more hero objects because they are going to be close to the camera, and so it's not necessarily sneaky in the sense of like, oh, we're going to show them this detailed thing to make them think everything in the background.
They're not deceiving us.
Well, I know, but I mean, like, these are the hero objects for the final shot, and not hero objects for the breakdown.
Yeah,
I
don't want people to think like we're trying to say they're being like deceptive and stuff, but like that's
the whole point of VFX, though. It is literally deceptive.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's like a magic trick, it's
maliciously deceptive. Let's talk.
I'm a visual liar.
Yeah, I mean, we all are, right?
It's like
visual lying.
Yeah, I took visual lying 101 in college. No, it's like being a magician or something. It's like I'm gonna go get lied to for 30 minutes and have a great time.
Yeah,
that's a great analogy. Yeah, this is very much like magic because you're drawn into this very detailed asset, and you don't realize like the collection of planes that's in the background.
Yeah,
and it's about like directing the audience attention where you want it.
Mm-hmm. And also, the people that usually make this sometimes aren't engineers, so like another thing to break down and pick apart is like the actual mechanics of the thing, as opposed to just how detailed the model is. I'm not smart enough to really do that, but
I'd say
it's all about just making people think that it would work.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's about there being intent. Yeah,
I have that on my spaceship models and stuff, right? But like
I mean,
ultimately, my thruster, like the cooling system, would never work if it was implemented.
but that's like with like the environment shots or like whatever we create, like a lot of people as well are like always in the comment section my thing like, oh, I can't believe like the background, you know, like how detailed you got your background, but it really isn't. If you get a little bit closer to my background mountains, they look super shitty. Like the trees are like all like half floating above, you know, or something like that,
Yeah.
and like it just doesn't. It's
I want to
like
show.
background work is way different.
I want to show sort of a good example of this with this because this is like a very clear way to see that. So like these rocks, they look pretty good from like this,
Hmm.
right? Hell, you can even get it a little bit closer. Let's like zoom in on this one. Like it still looks pretty good here. Even here, even though it's starting to break down. But then you go in really close and it's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, literally,
Yeah.
and
Right?
that's honestly why I'm like super interested in like Jared's workflow for like these close-up scenes, because that's actually like I can't do that. Like I
So
tried and like it failed.
I will say that it's actually doing something really similar, but instead of polygons, it's more in the depth of field.
Hmm.
If you turn off the depth of field, the image breaks.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Pull up the art station, Jared, real quick,
Okay.
because let's do a little
Here,
deep
I'll work
dive.
on pulling up a example on my Blender
All right.
while you do that.
Perfect. But like your recent shot, the most recent one, like something like that, I'm always like, it's so awesome because it just really convinces me. One, of course, but also like because you're so close, like any weird placement, any clipping, any of that, like that would be extremely noticeable. But somehow it
But
all
it
feels
also kind of
natural.
isn't. So those leaves have so much clipping going on the ground.
Yeah.
But since there's just so much of them and they're all kind of piled together, it kind of gets lost in the noise and you don't really notice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of those things where it's like when you have a ton of objects together like that that are just like smashed together, the clipping and stuff ends up looking more natural. Like you don't really
Mm.
notice it.
And do you use like G scatter to like
Uh,
scatter this or?
I use Scatter 5 as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I tried to like get into like the Grasswald close scenes myself, and then I found that like I don't really do you do like study on the species and stuff of what grows where, because it feels so natural as well, because this just feels believable, as in like the plants, they make sense as to where they are and like
So
what they are.
not super detailed in terms of like the how do I say it? Not necessarily like the specific plants. I think of it in terms of kind of like layering up from the ground. So
Mm-hmm.
in that shot, I have like my leaves. I have two different types of leaves, or like yeah, I have two different types of leaves, and then I have pine needles.
Mm-hmm.
And I mashed them all together to make it look all messy. And
Yeah.
then I sculpted up the ground near the log and
Ah, yeah.
then put a heavier weight paint for the leaves, like at the base of the log, so they're a bit
Mm,
denser and more piled up, like almost as though they collected up against the log.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, and then from there, I was like, okay, now I need small plants. So I took a pretty small species. I think it was actually one that I worked on for Graswald, common dog violet or something like
Mm,
that. And I used that as like a really low leafy one. And then from there, I kind of just layer up and I'm like, okay, now I have this small one on the ground. Sometimes I'll have like two, or I'll just like go up a level and like, okay, here's this small one. Here's like a medium small one that's a little bit bigger. And
yeah.
then I use these, like the main one in the foreground and then the background is a blackberry bush asset from them.
Mm,
And I use that one a ton. I just like the way that it looks.
yeah. And I mean, blackberries are like an invasive species, right? Like they kind of like
Yeah.
grow everywhere. So that's why it really makes sense.
Yeah. So then I add those in, and then usually I try and add in a couple more to break up, the monotony of a single one.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of times in my scenes I'll have like two main species for like this larger level, like the blackberry level. And then I'll
Mm-hmm.
add in like one or two more just to make visual noise. in a sense,
Yeah.
like just break it up, make it seem more wild and more, yeah. But so with this scene, I was like specifically like really deep diving into like how Aaron Westwood makes his insanely realistic like nature scenes. And that was something that I had noticed was like, oh, I'm underdoing the amount of other plants that I have, like breaking things up.
Okay.
And so I added in like 3 more. I have I don't know if I do in this one. I think I re-rendered it out, but I didn't re-render out the animation. Actually, go to the still real fast. I can't remember if I put the still that has more going on. I did not. Actually, I'll just open this scene real fast. I opened a different one. Sec.
But I can definitely see like you have like what really sells it to me is like on the right side you have like those 2. I have no idea what it is, like a tree sapling little thing, like 2 of them, and they're just kind of by themselves. And then on the left side you have that like dead berry bush, like doesn't have really leaves on it, but it's like that brown like those 2 little
like
assets.
A little thorny bush, like a rose bush.
Yeah, like those 2 assets really sell the scene for me because that like they just break up the like the noticeability of the other assets, you know, being all the same. Like that really like yeah.
Yeah, and something I also really like to do, which I do in basically all of my scenes, is I put objects kind of in the foreground that are meant to be out of focus, and that kind of extends the scene past the camera towards you. And here, one sec.
Gives it some depth, right? Like the
some immersion to the scene.
Yeah. It immerses the camera in the scene and adds in like that kind of visual depth.
One thing I really want to do is I want to try using depth of field in my space renders. Which is like that would break up some of the realism, but I think that might be a really interesting effect.
Yeah, it could be cool.
I mean, the thing with depth of field is like I barely even turn it on for like most of my scenes because like when you're focusing on stuff far away, it barely you don't really see it when like the focus is on like something like 200 meters away. You don't really notice the depth of field at all, and then
Sam, can I
takes
share
a shit ton of render time.
This is one of the process versions of one of my friend's galaxies, and like that's a pretty neat effect.
Yeah,
is this depth of field in
mini?
Is it in the 3D software? I mean, it looks like it could just be like a tilt shift in Photoshop or something.
That's what it was. He's an astrophotographer, so this is like actually Andromeda.
Oh, this is real.
Yeah.
Oh,
I forgot real life existed.
That's sort of
what is real life? What are you guys talking about? Real?
Like, what is that thing?
Are you sure?
But yeah,
you
Jared's process, I definitely like. I work similarly to you, Jared, with building up from the ground floor. You got like your dirt particles, and then you go with the pine straw, and then you go with dead leaves, and then another set of dead leaves, and you just slowly start working up.
Yeah.
And you may not think that you need all those little dirt particles, but then they're actually quite helpful building up this layer.
Yep, you can see your screen.
Whoa, that is a detailed log. Is that
Quixel? So this is it's a high poly mesh from Quixel. When you're exporting, you can go down in the LODs to the bottom, and they have high poly. So this is like their high poly base scan.
That's pretty nutty.
Yeah, because I always just have like pretty blurry logs. I'm always like, they don't look that nice and gritty.
Yeah, so
you put the displacement on it?
No, I do that sometimes, but it doesn't really work.
Something I've noticed with the logs is even like the high poly versions will still be like a little schloopy, where you'll get some muddying in the areas, and so that's actually what these 2 leaves are doing, is they're hiding an area that's a little like
don't look.
Everyone's like, I was gonna do a depth of field demonstration, but I'm gonna turn that off so I can render this.
Yeah, try to render two images at once.
Yeah, The scene actually is typically pretty fast. I don't know why it's of course slow the
Probably
second I want to show somebody.
Are you using
Yeah.
Blender
Yeah.
3.5? Because I've
Okay.
had so many issues. I recently switched to 3.5 and like it broke so many of my scenes and like it's slow and the light
Yeah, I
path
actually
slowed.
just switched back for that reason. So this scene is in 3.4 because I was
Okay.
having too many issues with 3.5.
Yeah, no, that
Okay, if I
version
could
is definitely not polished.
render.
The light paths like no, like it's supposed to help on scenes with a lot of lights. So I tried to use it on my like Cyberpunk City thing, like the old project that I uploaded recently, and like it just broke the whole blend file. I could never
Oh.
render it anymore. Like it just broke the whole file, so I had
Oh,
to go back and like take an old build. Like,
It also had like really bad like memory leak issues where
oh yeah,
it seemed like every third render I had to like restart because it was just out of memory for no reason.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
You
that's
can
exactly what I
you
had.
can kind of see here like this area doesn't look so nice. Like
It's a little crusty. Yeah.
even from the camera. Uh but yeah, so I have these plants here in the middle. These are hand placed to kind of break up the background. I was actually talking to Aaron, and that was like the piece of feedback that he gave me was that it's a little bit repetitive in the background, but you could just add a couple things. I also added in like a couple hand placed plants like growing out of the log just because I thought it looked cool.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, like the little like
Mm.
plants and leaves on the log also just look so good. So it's
So
fun to know
then
that they're hand placed.
I have like leaf set number 1, leaf set number 2, and then the pine needles. And you can see that there's actually like the ground's showing through. So I don't have it like crazy dense. I'm using it to like break up the texture on the
Yeah,
ground, which just helps a bit with performance. And
yeah.
then I have in like this level of here, I'll turn these off so people can see. I have like that level of like mid-ground plant or
hmm
mid-size. And then this is I think like the early dog violet that I was talking about.
hmm
And then I have a larger variant of it. And then I think, yeah. So then here's the blackberry ones. I'm going to turn some of these off. Try it. The blackberry one's kind of heavy because I'm
Yeah,
using it to like block the background quite a bit.
yeah. But man, this is super like informative for me as well.
And then
I really want to
there's that
jump in
one.
now.
Let me see what it's called again real fast. I think it was this one, like this common birch. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Birch sapling. Okay.
Yeah. From Greswold. And then lastly, I have those like rosebush
Yeah.
dead ones in. And then so for the log itself, I actually have moss scattered on the log, and then I have leaves and moss on the log as well. So I also have 2 layers of moss on the log. I have like a living moss and a dead moss. And then I used Scatter 5's like ecosystem tools to blend them together.
Yeah.
So that's the moss on the log. It's actually not like too crazy. Some of the texture underneath of the moss is poking through. And I used their fuzz map for the
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 By the
Smart.
way, did you end up using my leaf shader for the moss, or just any of these?
What was that?
Did you end up using the leaf shader I sent you for like my trees and stuff for any of this?
I didn't end up using it in this project, but I am like it is something that I think has a lot of like solid use, and I think I would use it. And I don't know if I'd necessarily use it as much in this because I think
Yeah.
it's too small of a scale to necessarily be worth the effort of switching over all of the
Yeah.
shaders. But definitely like in a even just slightly larger than this scene where if I'm doing like a forest scape, even at a more ground level, I probably would.
Gotcha.
So then I have like the pine needles and the leaves, and those kind of just sit embedded in the moss. Something that is interesting with it is I did have to like go in and like put in a cooling mask on like some of the edges so that you didn't have like a leaf just like sticking out of like this edge, just like sitting there vertical on that or like the edge here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Yeah, so it's like a mix. It's mostly, just using like the procedural tools in Scatter 5 and then using, hand painting and stuff
Yeah,
to polish it.
that's super cool. That's
Yeah.
actually yeah. I really want to jump in now because I don't know. I just got lazy maybe. Like I wanted to do like even more detail in the foreground for that valley shot, but I just used the moss biome, like the for geoscatter, like the moss biome you can buy, and I just plopped that on the wall and called it a day.
I'm also using a custom bokeh setup from
Mm.
Creative Shrimp's tutorial on it. So it actually is. You can see some like ghosting and fringing
Oh,
Oh yeah,
on the plants in the corner, and I thought that actually added a lot to the like realism of the shot to have some like lensing artifacts.
yeah.
definitely
No,
does. Kind of a
that's.
lens distortion.
Yeah.
I just use like the Pro Lens 2 one, but like I find myself like when I use depth of field that I like almost enjoyed it the blurred out parts of the image more than my
Yeah.
focus shot. I was like, oh look at that bokeh right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I liked that, and then on basically all of my shots, I kind of do the same base settings, and then I'll tweak it depending on how it's looking. But in the compositor, I'll add a lens distortion node, and I'll put the dispersion at 0.003 and the distortion at 0.001, and it just adds like this slight lens distortion. Like the distort adds like a slight lens distortion to the image, and then the dispersion is actually the here. Let me see if it's more visible in one of these.
I have a question. Do you guys normally like composite your shots inside a blender, or do you choose to take it to like After Effects to do most
So
of your?
Yeah,
when I
don't
do
compositing.
when I do post on it, I usually do it in Lightroom, but I mainly work
Oh
with
yeah.
stills. So
On the Lightroom note, this is like life hack. If you are not happy with your shot, right? Like you're rendering, and you're just like, something about this is just not nice. If you render out like in like PNGs, so you have a whole image
Mhm.
sequence, you can like color grading in After Effects and is kind of it's just bad. Lumetri is not great like color
yeah,
grader, but in Lightroom, like you have all these sliders, you can change like the whole like color, like every single color is like super easily editable and it looks really good. So sometimes I'll just go into like a render that I didn't really like, import all the images into Lightroom, and then just start sliding the colors around, and you can like turn a scene that's like a green forest into like an autumn like yellow and orange forest, just using Lightroom sliders, and then you can apply that effect to all the images and just render them out as a batch again, and just change your whole render around.
Oh
Mm.
yeah.
Because
Nice.
Lightroom is super powerful. You have like the clarity effect and stuff and texture. Like
Have you
you can
guys
do a
messed with
lot more.
DaVinci at all with Resolve?
I have, but
That's what I use for color grading. It's quite
it's
good.
so powerful. But like I get so confused with like non-Adobe UIs.
Oh, okay.
I'm like a
Sure.
boomer. I'm definitely a boomer in that sense, where I'm just like, oh god, a new software. Oh,
You know who you guys would love to talk? Who you guys would love talking to about comp stuff? You guys know who Christopher Frazier is?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, he's really good at that shit. He just did a stream the other day about he was using Nuke and shit, and that shit's wild.
Oh yeah.
in
Nuke is cool.
in Lightroom for things like this, they have like a select subject thing where you can just click it and it basically auto masks the like focus object in the image. So
Oh
I did
wow.
that for these mushrooms, and then I did have to do like a little bit of painting. Like it had this area in here like selected as the subject, so I had to paint that out of the mask. But
This is
yeah, it's
such a
like really,
nice render.
it's so powerful, and then I could make color adjustments and stuff on just the mushrooms by themselves. No like further tweaks, and then like same with the background. So I just used that mask inverted basically to be able to color grade the background.
hmm
And I got this like I got this from I don't how do you pronounce his last name? I think it's Dan Wojie. He's like a creative director at Quixel, and he has like this super duper old tutorial that was like one of the first tutorials I
Oh
watched.
yeah, I watched that.
Yeah, for
For
his
my
macro
mushroom, yeah.
mushrooms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a thing in there when he was talking about his color grading process where he was saying like an old animator's trick is to push the background a little bit more blue, and it kind of mimics like a distance fog almost, and it just
Oh yeah.
tricks your eye into thinking that there's more distance and depth there.
Yeah.
So like even on a small scale scene like this, like sometimes I'll just like push it a little bit blue, even though like there wouldn't be any atmospheric haze at like that scale.
Yeah, and orange and blue are nice complementary colors. So
Yeah.
definitely
Also
gives it a
good
nice
for daylight.
vibe.
If you're just doing a bright daylight shot, a lot of people forget like the sky is blue. It's definitely gonna like
Oh, this
you know
is
like the
cool.
specularity on the leaves is definitely gonna reflect that. So a little bit of blue
Yeah.
on nature shots, if it's bright daylight, it definitely works.
Yeah, I usually
So
just like crank my temperature to the blue a little bit in like all my renders.
Dude,
Yeah.
I have so much experience with fucking blue. I hate it so much. So in my planet renders, right? So first of all, I want to set the scene, right? So I don't use volume scattering for any of my planet renders. So I just use emission and absorption that are calculating the light for me in fun ways. And I'll get onto that more probably later, but I don't want to interrupt the stream of I don't want to interrupt the flow too bad. So basically, I could do a good enough job getting all the indirect light and stuff, but the fact of the matter is there are so many interactions with the atmosphere that pick up so much blue light that at the end of the day, I just have to just put a blue filter over it, like every single
Yeah.
time. Like it's the craziest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just sort of something you have to do.
Makes sense though, for sure. And it's trickery, you know, it's not like
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be, you know, real color. You just
Yeah.
push it in that direction.
Well, I mean, there are plenty of ways to get around the little like the holes in your CG object. My preferred method was just to not have holes, but that doesn't always work. 'Cause
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
just so bad at accepting that my stuff isn't perfect,
Yeah.
even though I always harp on harp
My
on my
main
own.
my main tip would be just like put everything far away from the camera and then nobody can see any imperfections.
Yeah.
That's the
I'm
goal.
also kind of the same way where like until an image is like absolutely perfect, which I guess for me, I care more about the end image than like how perfect it looks in the scene,
Hmm.
where I'm willing to have like janky whatever to get me where I want to be. But until I get that like absolutely perfect, every pixel is where I want it, I will like not give up on it. So it's like if I notice like clipping on a thing that like 90% of people wouldn't notice, but it's like, oh, there's clipping on that thing. I'll just like literally click the seed button on that scatter until I get it not clipping through anything. Or I'll just spend like, sometimes I'll literally just spend like 20 minutes just like seed fishing to get like,
100%.
oh, I want, like this moss to have like the higher one here and it be a little bit lower there. But I don't want to try and paint in like an individual thing of moss. So I'll just like click, 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 click.
Yeah.
But
That's
Dude, I
that's
do the same
definitely
thing with my nebulas. I specifically made it so that any seed will look good, but then a couple days ago, I spent literally hours seed fishing.
yeah.
It's just the stupidest waste of time ever. But hey, I got some cool HDRIs out of it, so.
I have the same kind of workflow for like these scenes too, where I kind of layer up from the ground. Like I have a dirt particle system, then I have like these twigs and stuff, and then I have that kind of protruding through the moss, and then I have grass, as you can see here, to kind of stick out of the moss. And then yeah, I have like larger grass and then larger plants and stuff. But what I wanted to show with this is the way that like depth of field really changes things. Because like if we stay even in like the camera perspective here, and I just like turn depth of field off,
oh
my
god.
god.
it's yeah, like it goes from like even without like the other scatters, like this is
Wow.
a decent image, even without
Yeah.
like the background scatter stuff. You turn it off and then it's like goofy. And so especially when you're working in like small scale like macro scenes, if it's you're like working on it, getting things set up and things aren't quite looking right yet, just instantly turn on depth of field and you're like, oh, there we go. That was the issue, is it was looking horrible
Yeah.
and now I have accurate settings on the camera.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
depth of
think
field is
that's-
very powerful. For
I
my
feel like
forest
that's a lot,
floor
right?
render on my page, like, well, actually, I'll post it. Do-
But that's a lot, like a lot of things where you're in the scene, you're like not happy with how it looks, and then it's just like a camera effect or something, or
Yeah.
like simple color, like grading that's not perfect. So yeah, it's always hard when you're like a perfectionist, I guess, with your own work, because you stop yourself from like calling it done, and then it's just
Yeah.
a tiny change.
I want to show you guys something because some of the people in the stream that aren't on the Discord yet might enjoy this. It's gonna take a while to load. It's gonna take a while to load.
Well, that's loading. I guess I'll just share. We were talking before the stream about like camera settings and stuff, and specifically how like the focal length and the f-stop impact the look of the image. And so the f-stop, like the lower the number, the like shallower the depth of field is. So like the more blurry it's gonna be, and like the larger, the more things are gonna be in focus. But also with that, I'm gonna make it smaller so that it's a little bit more exaggerated. The focal length impacts the depth of the background quite a bit. So you can see that there's still like a pretty clear like distance between each of these background objects. But if I start to crank it up, it looks like they're getting closer together. Like the distance in between them starts to shrink.
Interesting.
And the depth of field effect also becomes much more pronounced. So it's like, even though I'm using the same f-stop, this green one is now like this super bokeh blob. Whereas if I go down to like, say even like 24 millimeters, it's almost in focus now.
Yeah.
What's the focal length on that mushroom render that you just showed us?
I believe it's 50. Oh, 75 actually. Yeah.
Okay, so you actually crank it quite high for small
Yeah, so
scenes.
for my small scenes, so macro lenses tend to have a pretty shallow depth of field. And there's not, even though they tend to actually be a little bit wider in the focal length, it's more to do with their f-stop. But for me, it's just kind of easier to play with this than get super crazy with my f-stop, because sometimes it'll end up getting like really small, and I'll be working between like 0.04, or not that small, but like 0.4 and like 0.5 or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas if I have like a higher focal length, I can kind of get the same effect with a little bit more range in there. So now I can work between like 3.8 and 4.2 instead of like 0.2 and 0.4.
Yeah.
And it ends up looking pretty much the same. There is like a little bit of a difference, but I think to most viewers, it's not really apparent. But yeah, I usually, for most of my scenes, I use blenders like default 50. Like I like 50 millimeter cameras. And then depending on what I want to do with it, sometimes I'll crank it up or crank it down. But even back when the default was 35 millimeters, I would usually like crank it up to 50 anyways. So when they switched to making the default 50, I was like, oh, they just saved me some time. That's nice of them.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Shoot, I was gonna tie this in to what we were talking about somehow, but I forgot.
Wait, let's go to coving the cov shot of the fourth floor.
Okay, we can.
Oh yeah, I was
That's
just
also
gonna.
a super nice one.
Yeah,
I was just gonna quickly mention that like this scene completely falls apart without the depth of field on. And it's one of the first, because Grasswald reached out to me and they were like, do you want to make a little thing for our trailer? And this was one of the first close-up shots that I had worked on.
You can share your screen.
Have you worked with depth of field or anything yet? Well, I mean, I had turned on depth.
I'm not sure my screen, am
I? I stopped sharing mine so he can share his.
Yeah, let me get that back. Sorry about that. I haven't been looking at a whole lot of stuff.
There we go.
But yeah, so this scene, like, it looks kind of goofy without the depth of field on as well. Even though it's kind of, I mean, it is it's not nearly as close up as Jared's shots, but still just goes to show that when you're working with this kind of environment, getting the depth of field quite high is like really important.
I have a question. Because I haven't used Grasswald that much yet. It's like, is that the base shader for like the plants? Because like the specularity on the leaves is like really nice. It looks really.
I adjusted it. I make everything more rough, or I make everything less rough and more specular.
Yeah.
Usually, And they actually told me to turn it down. They were like, "Hey, it doesn't look right, but I think it looks better, kind of
You're
shiny
like,
and
it's
stuff."
wet.
Yeah, yeah,
That actually is something I'll do. I'm trying to think of if I have one readily. I don't know if I have one on my art station, but I'll do like a rainy scene and I'll just like crank the roughness down and then it
yeah,
looks all wet and nice.
Yeah, you did
yeah,
like the
yeah.
one with the like broken down BTR, right? Like or like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
tank. Yeah. That I think I saw that video like when it came out and I was like, damn, this looks so good. And like yeah, like the specularity or like the really shiny
Mhm.
plants for some reason it just looks better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not realistic.
Especially in that scene where it's like it's overcast and foggy and it looks kind of
Mhm.
drizzly.
Yeah, I do
But
love that vibe like a lot.
I will say though, about the Graswald shaders, like out the box, like they're good to go. Like
Yeah.
I will sometimes adjust them depending on what I want for my scene. But if I'm pulling something in, like it's usable right off the bat. Like they have some really nice shaders and really nice
Oh,
models.
okay.
And then it's
Yeah.
just kind
Yeah.
of like, artistic license to get it to have the pings or whatever that you want in a shot.
hmm
Hmm.
But yeah, damn, this shot looks so good, dude. The forest floor one, it's also so like. I have one question: are those birch trees from like CG Trader? I think I have the same
Yes,
birch trees.
and then one of them is Quixel.
Oh, okay.
So there's
Yeah,
a Quixel and like but yeah, they're just like scans of the base of
Yeah.
trees.
yeah, they look really good too, man. This whole scene, like, I don't know, just I love the forests like around my house, and this is like exactly what they look like. So I love
Oh,
these
hell
kind
yeah.
of shots. It's
That's
great.
actually
Yeah.
where most of my inspiration comes from is I grew up out in the woods and then I still love, I rock climb, I like backpacking and hiking and stuff. And I love getting out into the woods. And
Yeah.
so most of my stuff is nature focused because that's where I find the most inspiration in real life is I'm out there and I'm like, oh, it's so pretty. I want to capture this
Yeah.
somehow.
Honestly,
Yeah.
Yeah,
same man.
definitely.
I remember when I was born on the moon. So
I
Just out in space, little Cosmo baby.
remember when Sam was born out of a nebula.
I was
His
birthed.
cosmic embryo was actually pictures of his birth.
Oh, yeah,
Damn.
dude, that was such a. I want to show that real quick because that was such a happy accident. Um, so I was messing around with Here, I'm gonna show this because it's the best example of that. So I was messing around with curling stuff around like stars,
hmm
because like obviously that's pretty cool. And then I just found this. I was like, what the fuck?
Looks so badass.
That's
It
that's
does
so cool.
really.
Wait, I have a question about that. So it looks like there's almost a web like deforming around the ball. Is that on
Yeah.
accident?
That was partially on accident. So I want to pull up an HDRI of mine. So this is one HDRI. This is what I was going to show before. Real quickly, if you want to get this HDRI, I kind of fucked up, so it's a bit unusable for me. But I do have it for free on my Discord. It's like 24K and shit. So
It's kind of fucked up, but you guys can have it.
well, seriously though, like look at the
It looks
clouds.
amazing to me.
The clouds.
Yeah,
are,
I want to
like,
do some
kind
space
of-
renders with this.
The clouds are kind of awful. You guys can do it. They just look like shitty volumes. I'll show you the one that I'm working on right now. I only was able to render out a small portion of it.
Does it light the scene like correctly and stuff, or
More or
is
less.
it used?
I try
Okay.
not to have the sun light it. This is why I
Mm.
was talking about. These clouds are much better, right? So if they got
Yeah.
the powder
Yeah.
effect and such.
But for
Um,
like an HDRI, it's still perfect because it's of course like a background image. So
Yeah.
you can, yeah, I'm definitely gonna download that and like do some space renders and call it mine. Take the credit.
Yeah. Let me go to. I'm gonna open up my Nebula stuff. Sometimes,
like
by the
if
way,
we
I
all-
render HDRIs in parts because they just take so long, and it's pretty easy just to stitch them together.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like how long do you render? Because I feel like I'm more used to like trying to minimize render time because I'm really focused on animation. So like trying to get everything under at least under 8 minutes is like the goal per
So,
frame. But I
for-
feel like you just have like one frame for like 5 hours.
For an HDRI, usually it's 8 to 24 hours. But those are a bit higher res, obviously, than most of my images, and animations and such.
Mm,
By the way, do you guys like the Starfield?
I love it.
Nice.
Cool.
But for like an animation, I can usually get shit down to like 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you have like you have a 470, right? Or 4070?
4070 Ti.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I really want to upgrade my card. This 3060 is cool, but
Oh, you're
getting kind of
complaining.
rough.
I have a 2070.
Yeah.
I
Hey.
love a 3060.
So this HDRI.
Oh, you can have mine.
This HDRI was pretty fun to render.
Yeah, I was talking to you about it. Like I don't know. It looks so painterly. It almost like it reminds me of like the classical just like super painterly looking, like almost heavenly. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the goal
Yeah.
to mix like realism with
Mhm.
like this shit is obviously not perfectly realistic, but like you could imagine this happening in a sci-fi setting. Like the shit is curling around
Yeah.
the stars.
It's so cool.
It looks like it'd be like a matte painting in the background of like
Yeah.
Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And the fun
No,
thing
it's
is
so
like
awesome.
you can just change the seed and you can render out another one of these. Obviously. Like,
I feel like you could
$15
sell
grand.
that setup. I'm like honest. I feel like you could probably sell that for like quite a lot of money. Just
I put
like
it up
for
on my
sure.
Patreon for like $25, so
nice.
it's
No, like
probably
this is
isn't-
the fact that you can seed farm like such detailed nebulas is insane.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Could you sell the system
I do, yeah.
Damn.
like to like studios?
Yeah, you could
Oh,
definitely
to
like
studios usually
Like
if-
you sell your
So I
like the system that you've developed.
Yeah. So it's a little bit complicated with studios and such. I was working with a guy to get my Planet shader used for production. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out. I'm not sure how much detail I can go into, so I'm going to keep it relatively
that's fine.
brief. But like, I try to sell my shit to just like sort of the average, not the average necessarily, but like the wider Blender community because I
Yeah.
mean, more people there can use it, and like there are already tools
Mhm.
like TerraGen that studios use, so
Sure.
it's not
yeah.
like they're in
That makes
huge need of it.
Right.
yeah.
I mean,
But for a
certainly-
map painting purpose, this would be great. Like if you're
Yeah.
making like a space, scene of then one you just can seed farm it, then you can render out a few, start map painting away because there's so much detail and looks so good.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean certainly.
Yeah.
I think these work well enough on their own without any map painting, but certainly you could probably elevate it a little bit. This is like ultimate thumbnail juiciness.
Right here.
I'm gonna be using this in a few thumbnails. This is like 24K as well, so it's pretty high
Super
res.
nice.
Nice.
This will probably be on my Patreon in the next day or so. Just quick plug there for anybody interested.
How is your Patreon experience, by the way, guys? Because I'm like, of course, I'm very new to it, and like I just started it, like, and then a few people, of course, subscribe, and then I feel like so like, oh god, I need to perform. So I'm like on Patreon, constantly like, posting, and like, I don't know. I feel like I'm like half neglecting my normal YouTube channel to like keep the Patreon like filled with new stuff. It's I don't know. What's your like game plan with the Patreon for you guys?
So
Well, for me, you want to go?
yeah, so I've gotten the most success really by keeping the content stuff to YouTube, but then uploading the assets to Patreon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
smart.
I don't mean to like shame any of you guys if you're doing like Patreon tutorials, because obviously like that's its own thing, right? But I don't really like gatekeeping knowledge too much. But I'm obviously not going to sell all of my stuff or just put all of my stuff out there for free. I only put like the rejects out for free, which is usually good enough for most people. Like for instance, my fucking Planet HDI. But yeah, so that's sort of my philosophy, because most people, I mean, I don't really know. I don't really like putting tutorials up on Patreon.
I think that's like what I do mostly though, because I'm not an asset artist, so I only have a few assets, and they're like, I mean, they're
Yeah.
okay, but and
It's hard to share
like-
assets where you're using like Quixel materials.
yeah,
and stuff like that, 'cause
Quixel
you can't share
materials.
it.
true.
And like Speedtree, bro. Speedtree's evil. What is up with them?
Yeah.
I put all my effort into making a nice ass tree, and then they're like, nah, nah, you're gonna get sued if you sell your speed tree or like whatever.
I
It's something else.
I
I
read
know. I wish I could
somewhere.
share the trees that I make because
Hmm.
some of them are really not. Like I just redid some of the trees in kind of like a mid poly way, and it ended up being like not too many more polys than like the low poly stuff, but it looks
Yeah.
a lot closer to the like crazy high poly, like 6 million polygon ones that I had done.
I looked up the speed tree thing. I read somewhere that it only applies to like the store assets. You can't really sell those. But
Who
I don't
knows?
Oh.
think they
I'm
can.
like
They're
I'm like
probably
iffy about it with
yeah.
them. Like I don't know. The language they have is like pretty like, but like that's the weird thing. Like I also made a few models myself, and then I used a texture from textures.com, but I baked it in, so it is not reusable in other stuff because it's like
Yeah,
messed up. Um, but then if I read their like ULA or whatever the hell the thing is,
Eula,
and it's
yeah.
like and it's like, oh, even if it's altered content, you're not allowed to distribute, and I'm like, what's going on? It's just,
Which is
how are
wild.
acid
Like it's
artists?
so wild that they're like that with
Yeah,
'cause there's like Gaia and like World Creator. They're like, yeah, you can sell it, do
yeah,
whatever, sell them all, sell all the things,
and I don't
and
think they're
then
losing any money on it. Yeah,
well, especially because like with like studio, like almost all of their money is coming from studios. Like all of their
yeah,
real money is coming from studios. Studios aren't gonna just only buy things like
Yeah, if they
off of,
lose if
like
they
studios are gonna have speed tree because they're gonna need like custom plans, custom
yeah.
branches, custom animations for the shot. Like you're not gonna get rid of the studios like business if you have like asset artists like us selling things on the marketplace
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
other hobbyists.
And also, I gotta say though, like, how would they know? That's always kind of my thing. Because I swear to God, now that I've been using SpeedTree, I look at like I'm not blaming anybody, but I sometimes look at Botanic and stuff, and I'm like, that looks real. SpeedTree, like,
Oh yeah.
With like
I wonder.
Botanic and stuff, I don't know how they do theirs
I have
and
no idea.
like
I'm not, of course, I'm not
but I
blaming
will
anybody,
I
but
like Cuff has said this too, but like if you go on like Turbo Squid, like a lot of them are definitely speed tree.
oh,
oh yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Because I
So
mean, I bought
I don't know
CG
how I
Trader
don't know
trees
how
as
much
well.
they
Yeah,
yeah, or like CG Trader too. Like on those marketplaces, a lot of them are speed trees. So I
yeah.
don't know how much they like really enforce it on the smaller level or if it actually is, or I don't know what the deal is. It's yeah,
I don't understand it myself, but
yeah,
that's definitely one thing. It's like I create assets, but most of them I can't give away
yeah.
legally, quote unquote. So yeah, that's why I'm like on Patreon. I'm kind of like, yeah, for now I'm doing exclusive tutorials, and I feel bad when I see somebody in the comment section ask, "Oh, can you please cover this and this?" And I'm like in my head like, "Oh yeah, that's on my Patreon, so I can't really release that on YouTube."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like hard because it's I'm not an acid artist,
That's
so I
where
can't.
you utilize shorts. Make like a like a 1 minute video covering like the basics of the workflow and then be like, I go in more in depth on my Patreon. Buy my stuff.
I
Yeah, I
want
think
to get in your Discord server, by the way.
Oh, yeah, if you want to join, it's fine.
Yeah, I'll
People aren't
send.
very active. I'm trying to get people to share their work because I'm actually like on my Discord. That's what I really wanted to do is like people who like are patrons then like, talk with each other, share their work and ask for feedback. So far, I think like two guys have shared their work and I've like gone, talk with them extensively about how it could improve and that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
most people don't talk at all. Sadly, it's a very small Discord server, so
Yeah,
yeah, you're definitely allowed to join. Don't worry about it.
that's
yeah,
cool.
I'm actually pretty happy with my little community that I've built on the Patreon
Yeah,
because the Discord's doing kind of cool. It's cool. It's like a bunch of
Hmm.
people in there that are chatting and sharing.
it's pretty dense.
Uh,
Yeah, you got like a ton of people are talking for house. What? How many people you got in there? It's like
yeah,
50 or something, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
like,
pretty cool.
what is your Patreon strategy? Is it like well, yeah, assets maybe, but or is it more like
I don't.
BTS content?
Right now, it's my idea behind it is every couple months there's like the big YouTube project, and then the
Hmm.
Patreon videos are going to be breaking down smaller pieces of the YouTube video until the
Hmm.
next one, and then it opens up a whole bunch of new techniques, and then you'd get like a hour video breaking down small little pieces of that YouTube video.
Okay.
And recently, a couple weeks ago, I recorded like a 5 or 6 part series, and now I'm just releasing them every Monday. So it kind of is nice because I'm not having to work every week. It's just I got it all over with, and now I upload
Yeah.
periodically.
You're talking about your lamp.
The carrot lantern,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, those
Sorry,
are some
wait,
pretty
are you-
sweet tutorials.
Thanks.
So
yeah.
like you take one subject, you split it up into 5 videos, and then every Monday you upload one part.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing for this one
Okay.
series.
Yeah,
But
yeah. That's
I think it's
smart.
totally fair to, like if you have to make a living in order to produce content for free, I think it's totally fair to have an area where you're also sharing content
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
costs
that's
some money.
Mhm.
that's definitely it.
Do you
Yesterday
do you
I
want to
was-
jump into some of your work, Cov, and like break down some more stuff for us?
For sure.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
Then we can move on to Martin
Yeah, totally.
and have him and work our way up.
Cov,
Totally.
I was grilling some people on your server like yesterday about not triple edging, which is pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
I was like, "What is Cov teaching?"
Yeah.
And I also got the excuse to share my spaceship, which I was quite.
Oh yeah, that thing is
enthusiastic
looking pretty awesome.
I haven't worked on it in 2 weeks. I really should.
You have plans to animate and like have it flying through the environment and stuff?
I am probably gonna do something about that in the future.
You need
I'm
to
passing it on
keep
to-
working on it. I'm gonna have time this week to start on the texturing, so you need to work on finishing that up.
Jared's gonna be my texturing monkey.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's a little bit of a collab there.
Yeah, and if somebody's willing to do some rigging, I mean, I'm not gonna stop them.
How are you going to go about the texturing for that?
Substance.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
All right.
Yeah, if
Who's
you don't
sharing
mind-
the screen, by the way?
How about
Yeah.
Cov, can you do that that way? Because I don't always.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we've talked about macro. I thought it was called micro. I guess it's macro scenes, tiny little
Yeah.
mushrooms and such. Hold on, I haven't shared my screen in a bit. Okay, share screen. Yes. Here we go.
Quickly hiding all the bookmarks.
You can either share like a window, or kind of towards the top. There's the thing that says screens, and you can
Mhm.
share the whole screen.
By the way, really
Well, it's up
quickly
to you.
on the
But,
Discord topic about engagement and stuff, I just want to quickly thank my community for being so like lively about stuff. It's really cool to see everything that you guys post.
Can I
Yeah.
work with you if your Discord people like and put them in my Discord to like create engagement? Because my Discord is too quiet. I
You
need.
can
I need to.
I can lease out cheese to you to do some
Cool.
posting.
Yeah. I just want to lease a few of your Discord pages.
Well, at least cheese out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
That is
All
what
right,
you
so
do.
yeah.
I can like literally
Send
I'm
I'm sure.
them
I'm
over.
sure cheese would
airdrop
love
him.
to. Yeah, cheese would love that. I'm sure.
it's
He'd be
like
like, cool, another
I can orbital
Discord server
bomb
just
cheese on
spam
Discord servers.
in.
Dude, we had some drama. We found like another
Release
cheese
the
bread,
cheese.
and then I invited him. I invited
Oh,
him,
yeah.
and he did some really bad shit.
He went from 0 to 100 real fast, and we're like, all right, bye.
All right, Cov.
Yep.
Break it down.
Yeah, so I guess one of my main thoughts about working with medium and small environments is it's when you go from medium to large, I feel like there's a really jarring difference between having to fake a lot of that detail. Like Martin, I'm sure, like obviously you know how when you're making a mountain, all the bump and stuff you're having to play with is faking the fact that there's not actually like millions of grass and bushes and stuff. And that's one reason why I'm kind of comforted by these types of environments is because it's very, very asset based.
Mm-hmm.
So like if your assets look good and everything is high quality and you stick it in there, you can kind of just like rely on that it's going to look good based on the quality of your assets.
Mhm.
There's just not like that much fakery happening. So for example, like the asphalt here, it's very, very straightforward. Like I'm not really deceiving you of anything. It's just a really, really, really dense adaptive subdivision with like 5 different gravel and asphalt textures blending together. So it's like you're not
paint
looking
a
at
lot as
anything.
well, right? Like
What's
for
that?
you paint a lot as well, right? So like for example, for this like
Yeah.
weird ridge in the asphalt,
Yeah.
you
So
painted that, right?
this ridge here is this asphalt is like you have your cracked asphalt and then you have your regular plain asphalt and then I have a couple others in there to break it up. And then you also have decals, like there's like a patch here and like a pothole here. And then I just have that blending in. This is just one gravel texture here, one gravel material I got from textures.com. And then I just painted in this mask in between using texture painting. I go into it on my YouTube video, kind of how I did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's these kind of environments. I have a lot of these because I'm not really worried about having to fake anything. It's all just there. And then when you get the lighting in, it just kind of works, I guess, in a way. Of course, the building too. There's a little bit of fakery in the building. I wish I had. Actually, I can go on my YouTube and pull up like an early. I don't know if you guys are able to see this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it showing this?
Yes.
So yeah, I want to go to like an early picture of the building. Oh yeah, so like here's the bricks. Well, there's literally just like an albedo plugged in with a color ramp going into a bump here. So I'm creating this like bump. So it's all like really, really basic. Like here it is. So yeah, it's really just basic textures. Like they're not PBR at all. I just like the roughness is coming from the albedo. The bump is coming from the albedo. These decals here are literally just single albedos painted on with a little bit of roughness.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look that great up close, but you know, like for example, the graffiti here is super low res. Like it looks.
That really sold it though. When you started adding the graffiti, I was like, all right, I'm sold on texture painning. I need to get into it.
Totally. Yeah, pieces it together more. I think graffiti is a really nice thing too because it's very relatable. Like everyone, like when you see graffiti everywhere in the streets and stuff, or at least where I live, it brings a lot of realism to it.
Your texture painting in Blender is also really impressive for like the way Blender's tools are. Like the amount of fidelity and detail you can get out of it is like as good as like Substance Painter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly it's just about like smashing together lots of stuff and like you think it's going to be messy, but when it's blending together with like realistic decals and chipping paint and stuff like that, it actually like comes together very well. But like this, for example, is super duper low res. Like all these pillars are just like, I think it's literally just like a blue BSDF with a little bit of roughness, and this stuff is all kind of trashy, just image textures stuck on there.
Yeah.
But when you have it in this kind of distance with the blur and the little bit of atmosphere and stuff like that, it comes across quite well.
I found
so that's
like PBR texturing is cool, but when people properly use like just images from real life and like stick them onto like any object in CG, it almost always looks better, even though you don't actually get like the accurate bump, roughness, whatever.
Yeah.
It for some reason in my eyes it still looks more real.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of little intricate details you get out of image textures that just kind of pull it together.
That's a universal fact about CG, by the way, not just for this sort of stuff. It's just image textures always look better.
Yeah.
Like I use image textures for my cloud maps, right?
Yeah.
Contributes to at least 50% of the look.
Yeah. You just have to know how to use them where it will very quickly look like. I think Ian Hubert does it really well where like everything he uses image textures, and it's only every once in a while you can like be like, oh yeah, that totally came from textures.com.
And you're meaning image projection.
Projection, or well, I guess a lot of these I'm not really using image projection. I'm just not using PBR. So like like the bricks, for example, is literally just like a tileable brick picture, and then you just kind of bring it all together. But I guess about the trickery thing, that's about the extent to how much I'm deceiving the viewer. in terms of like this building is built for this distance.
Mhm.
But everything else is I'm just relying on the workflow with making things high quality, and then you just stick it together and it looks okay. Like the mountains back here, the reason why they're like so obscured by the fog is because I was so scared to try to make them look detailed
Mm-hmm.
that I just like covered them up.
Yeah.
So yeah. But that's usually why I work with let's go to another like medium.
I wanted to ask
scale.
one question about the lighting.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course, that's a lot of comp work. Like, of course, you have to like because filmic, it's very high dynamic range, but it doesn't look like film because of it. It doesn't look
Yeah.
real. Like, what do you like? What's your workflow on just like lighting the scene? Like, you have a very bright, like circular light coming basically from the front. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. What's your workflow there?
So this lighting is just an HDRI.
Mhm.
Usually I just do HDRI, and then like I rely on the comp quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like here's the non
Yeah.
let's see. Yeah, so here it is not comped.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted you to focus on it, because it's like in Blender, people should always see the raw render and then after comp, because that's magic. Like the change.
Totally.
That's actually something I need to do more of. So with the reason why I was just like sharing my images is I don't really do much comp or post. I have like this weird everything has to be 3D in shot, like in camera. Which I need to get better at, like comping and stuff. It's more out of being bad at planning for post rather than or just I guess being like comfortable in like 3D more so than in like 2D post workflows or whatever. But I always have like this kind of almost restriction on my projects where I'm like, well, this isn't working out, so I need to find a 3D solution for it. I can't do it in Photoshop or
Dude, I'm exactly the same way. I never do comp.
Like I only ever really do like color correction in post, and that's about it.
Yeah, no, but like that's why like I really think it's like such a big aspect of CG, where a lot of people often do, like a lot of Blender people, I guess, because of course people are compositor artists, but in Blender a lot of people often refocus on the 3D part and do everything to make it look good, but then the difference between like a render like that most people have, let's say like most hobbyists have, and like a really professional shot is often just so much comp work still on top of it. So kind of like for example, like with the sky here, I'm not gonna ask for everything, but like the sky, what's kind of like your steps, like your go-tos to make the sky and everything to look more realistic, or lighting?
Well, sky is kind of a hard I mean, this is oh, you know what? Actually, this is not HDRI. Now that I think about it, this is I'm using a sky texture in Blender.
Yeah.
But so yeah, this sun, for example, is like part of the sky texture or whatever. But yeah, I think that I used to be the same, where I would not feel like I was being ethical by like using a ton of comp to make my renders look good. But I think the way you have to think about it is like you're compensating for the fact that in 3D you don't have lenses that work the way they do in real life.
Yeah.
And you don't have eyeballs that work the way they do in real life. This is just like a raw, like it's literally a raw look at the world. So yeah, comp, and then here it is with the comp. So like there's no way. And honestly, this is probably maybe a little bit over composited. I think I could have toned it down a little bit, but whatever. But there's no way that I could have gotten this look in Blender without compositing.
Especially the brightness and stuff, right? Like,
that's
so hard in Blender. You can have a sunlight blast away, but you'll never have like an overexposure and like light leaking over the building. Like you can see here, the building is like in the corner, on the right corner, like lights leaking past that like corner in the roof there. Spilling
the only
over.
way to get that is to use like volume scatter, which adds a ton to your render times.
Yeah, just a bunch of noise.
Yeah, I think the light bleed, I got this by just putting a blur, like a Gaussian blur over it, and then turning the opacity really low.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not volume, that's just bloom.
Yeah, exactly. The composite.
Yeah, just some bloom. But I mean, my workflow is all in DaVinci, and it's really really simple. Honestly, I just color grade first, so I do like the hues and saturations, exposures. I work with the curves, contrasts and lightness and shadows and all that. And I just get it. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know anything about color theory. I just
Relatable.
screw with the sliders until it looks good.
Yeah.
And then I go into the compositing. So like lens flares, and I'll animate like a little bit of like a little bit of a sun ray coming through the lens and then going away, kind of disappearing a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean and dust going across the screen and stuff.
Yeah.
Is the
I mean, it's really
lens flare,
simple.
Like, is that part of DaVinci, like a lens flare? Because
Well, you have to buy that, and
Yeah.
I'm cheap, so I just use the free. I just use the free DaVinci. So I I literally go on Google Images. It's like lens flare, and then I just adjust. I keyframe the opacity and like the rotation and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just have some After Effects plugin, but it's like Michael Bay level flares. I'm like, oh god,
Oh,
too
yeah,
strong,
just
too strong.
Destroy the whole image.
Yeah, literally. I can't even see my fucking render anymore.
I was working on some lens flares for Blender a while back. I got
Oh.
some neat results, but nothing really too crazy. I need to work on that again. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, like there
spent-
is already one add-on, by the way. Like it's like flared or something for Blender.
I know.
it's like-
I was trying to get like real camera effects though.
Ah,
I worked for a couple days on a fast Fourier transform implementation, which would allow us to get like actual real life glare,
oh,
but that didn't end up going too far.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I would want to have. I want somebody to like, you know how in Eevee you have like bloom and stuff. It's just an option you can just tick
Yeah.
on, and like Octane has it as well. If you use Octane for Blender or in Cinema 4D, you have like these render effects where you can just like add some bloom and stuff in your render. I would kill for an option like that in Cycles. Just
I
Well, it
know,
is
I
in
wish they
3.5, the real-time compositor. You can now
Yeah.
use bloom and then see it in the
Well,
viewport. So
the glare node doesn't work with real-time compositing. Like
it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, that's
doesn't,
awful.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the only one I wanted.
But also
Yeah,
the
literally.
glare,
I was so excited about
Yeah,
that.
I
Okay,
know.
that sucks.
it is a little bit nice for like the lens distortion things that I use work with it. But other than that, yeah, it is a little bit annoying to because the glare and lens distortion are basically the only two nodes I use in the
Exactly.
compositor. So one of
Those-
my two main ones don't work, and so
Yeah, it kind of like it doesn't really make sense for me to use it
yeah,
with all like the memory leak and whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I guess I'll talk about one other scene. So this like shrine scene that I made a while ago, 2 years ago. Oh my gosh. So yeah, this is another case of just being afraid of not knowing how to deceive the viewer with 3D trickery and stuff. I'm always afraid of that. So I just rely on the assets being really high quality and just make them basically as like dense as possible. Like this bell right here is like very, very, very high poly, like unnecessarily high poly.
Mhm.
And like this rock platform here is super duper high poly as well. And it just literally comes out of me just being afraid of.
If you don't mind, your stream's a little bit blurry, so I'm gonna pull this up on mine.
Oh, okay.
I think
Yeah.
because I'm gonna get full...
Scottish internet. The Scottish internet's not great.
Yeah, Scottish internet's good. Not good.
It could also just be not having. Fuck, where is? Do you have Nitro?
I think I can. No, I don't. I think it's only like 720 or something. but
Yeah.
that's-
I'll stop streaming so you can do it on your screen.
I'm just trying to find it. It's the. I think it's not it.
It's to the
I've
right.
been getting a
I'll
lot
just
better
sort-
about my
It's on the top right.
Oh, top right. Okay.
my
Oh
memory
yeah,
usage.
that's where it is.
But I still have a tendency to do that where I just like, more detail means more polygons and just throw more polygons at it.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, you aren't even wrong in saying that because that is true. But it's
Yeah.
like it's not always the most efficient way. I do the same thing. My ship is like 30 million polygons, and most of it isn't even subdivided. So
Mhm.
It also like that, like, being totally frank, like in a production environment in a studio, they don't really care because you have like especially with like V-Ray. V-Ray uses like you can GPU render, but typically you're doing CPU render anyways. So you have the entirety of your RAM as your VRAM for every one of your like render farm computers.
Oh,
And
that's
so
awesome.
you have like almost endless amounts of RAM to use for the render. So you're not really as concerned with like memory when you're using like a render farm.
Yeah, I really wish like I mean Cycles is amazing. It's really quick, but I also feel like I don't know. I definitely want to try some other like render engines and 3D softwares, even though they're terrifying to me. But I want to try and get into Octane.
I want to try
Or-
Octane again too.
Yeah.
I tried playing around with it when it first had like literally like day one of the Octane for Blender
Yeah.
thing, and there's no documentation at all yet, and I
Mhm.
just could not figure out how to make it work, so I gave up and haven't revisited it since.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild. Like the Octane, like it's super strong and it's free, so it's like there's like no
Yeah.
reason not to use it. But I'm like lazy because the assets, like if you use like any Blender add-ons and stuff, like you spawn an assets, like they don't have the shader for Octane,
Yeah.
so you have to like link everything. And
There is like a converter, but I don't know how good it is.
I think it only works with like straight PBR texturing.
Yeah.
I feel like if you have forestation, like the trees have like a special like node set up, and then
Yeah.
it breaks it all. That's
Fun
sadly
stuff.
the big.
There's some fucking.
Go to
I know. I was
Cov's first shot. The very first environment Cov made looks amazing.
Oh yeah.
Wait, this one?
Yes,
Yeah, I think that's like the first.
I want to hear the full
Environment.
breakdown.
No, it's just
Oh.
this.
That is just an A&T like generated terrain from Blender with like a Quixel thing thrown on it.
Good to know that
That's
we
it.
all started like that with landscape. Just
I was shaking the whole. I was like sweating the whole time I was making this environment.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'll throw it up in like the chat, and Sam, you can share it, but I want to show you guys my my first render that I did.
Ooh.
Oh, I want to see this.
Let me see if I can find it real fast, because I don't think I actually have it in my output folder.
Martin, do you have your favorite, your first render?
I have it. That's like 2014 or something. First render, or even worse.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no,
You've been
I
doing this a
started.
long time.
I
Oh, yeah, I
literally, I was like a kid and I downloaded like this like intro, like 3D intro template, and it ended up being like a blend file, and that's like it was like 2.7, like the first one or something, like super old.
You guys want to see my first plan?
So that's how I got in.
I started
Look-
2.76, I want to say.
I think that might be somewhat. 2.7 was a long, like around for forever. Like
Yeah.
I started 2.79. This was my first planet, by the way.
that's like good. That's like a really like
Pretty cool.
good start. I'm scared to share my stuff.
It's a decent start. I had already been doing 3D for a little while by that time.
Oh, I'm downloading it's on my drive. Hold up. Can I?
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know if
trying to
it's too
find
big.
it. One sec.
This was another planet. This was procedural.
That's like. How many years ago was this?
This was fucking 2019. So like almost
okay,
4
wow.
years ago.
Cool.
Let's see if I can find any more.
I'm trying to find the original file, but
This is my first sun. This was made with
That's dope.
Creative
That's really dope.
Shrimps tutorial, I think. It's dope until you realize like a couple years later I was able to do like this shit.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
couple of years is a big amount of time. You can definitely learn a lot. I feel like I'm like growing like exponentially because like not too long ago I was still struggling a lot with my work and like trying to get it to where I wanted it. And then recently it's not like done yet, but I've grown a lot faster, and all of a sudden I'm getting way better results way quicker. Yeah.
What do you think
So I
caused that
posted in the
click?
chat.
All right. Yeah, this is when I made my destruction
Nice.
sim, which got
That's-
like a decent amount of traction, which is pretty cool.
Pretty insane. Martin,
That was your.
Oh, that's cool.
And
Oh, this is the first?
Yeah, that's my very first render. It was off of that
Sorry,
Quixel
I'm
Dan
posting
Wojcik
mine.
tutorial that I was telling
I-
you
Oh.
about before.
Everybody, I bid you to open and watch my beautiful animation. I put them in chat. 2 of them.
I'm trying to find his.
Oh, good
my God.
Look, character animation, bro. Like I was wild.
This is advanced.
Full
Dude, you got
environment.
mountains.
Dude, look at this.
Speed tree obviously used
Yeah,
here.
yeah, this is all high poly.
Keep in mind here, you still in this
Hey!
That's
this
so weird.
Martin, in this
Beautiful.
you have more rigging knowledge than I do today.
It was not rigging. That was all I think shape keys. Like
What?
literally like moving and then like keying you know, like you move like like the object in edit
God.
mode and then shape key is.
What is happening?
So
It's
I just shared the end result of the tutorial that I was trying to follow.
That's an animation I made for my mom.
What?
For smoke sims.
Are you trying to get her to stop smoking or something?
No, it was Mother's Day, so it was like
Oh my
for
god.
mom.
Oh, that's sweet.
So you can
That's
see I got
really
very close on my first ever attempt.
That's the
He was
That's
talking
great.
about like forest pack and stuff, and I was like, I have no idea what any of this means. And then he was using like a for his moss and stuff, and one of them he was using like this like really intense like subdivision method, and all of it went over my head. I had no idea what anything he was talking about, because like it's like an intermediate tutorial. This is not like a beginner tutorial. He's like, oh yeah, for all of you like industry artists out there, here's some like tips. And I was like, I'm gonna try and follow this. It's my first ever. I was in 3ds Max too. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
dear.
I kind of made the mistake of just not even I just like didn't follow tutorials. I just went for it, and
Yeah.
you can see the results of me just like playing around, I guess, and it's pretty bad.
I like kind of follow tutorials. I credit a lot of like my artistic knowledge and how like like my progression in general to the
Mhm.
fact that like I never followed tutorials 1-to-1. And I always came up with like, oh, I want to do like this alien planet, so I'm gonna try and find a tutorial, and then I followed like Blender Guru's like Mars tutorial to try and create the
Yeah.
thing I wanted to create, rather than I'm gonna go find a thing to do 1-to-1.
Yeah, that's
not-
really
Not be
important.
click
It's
for
similar.
click. Yeah.
Similar, like I did a few click for click. Like if you go to my channel, I think I have pretty much everything uploaded that I made on my YouTube. It's just like so if you go all the way back, there's like let's see where so you can see like I got back into Blender when 2.8 came out, and I did like a few tutorials like this is After Effects. But yeah, like I was the sci-fi tunnel thing. I think that's like a Ducky 3D, and I did it like
Whoa,
what
that
is it,
looks
like
amazing.
yeah, I
Dang,
stopped
dude.
talking. It's like oh
Like, yeah, this is my Panera Bread commercial I did for them.
yeah. No, so yeah, so like this thing is like a click for click tutorial, and when I did that, it actually like made me less inspired to do more. So I actually just like then I just went back to After Effects and just did my own thing, learning After Effects.
Oh wow, that's an awesome map painting though.
Yeah, that is solid.
It's all right. It's not great, but so yeah, like I can definitely say as well, like don't follow tutorials click by click, because you're gonna
for
get
sure.
uninspired. You're gonna get bored.
Yeah.
And you also you'll judge your stuff based on
Yeah,
the better version probably than what you're
Yeah.
working on.
and also
then
it
it's
means nothing.
unmotivating.
It
Dude,
means
Yeah.
nothing when you do it. It's just kind of like yeah.
Yeah, so for
Boring.
instance, if you're doing, I like to think about this with fuck. I like to think about this in the framing of like doing, like learning math, right? So if you learn basic arithmetic, you don't just immediately move on to the next thing. You should take some time to play around with that basic arithmetic and feel what it actually does, right?
Yeah.
So
hmm
that's sort of my thoughts on it. Take time to play around with what you learn. Even if
Yeah,
you follow a tutorial one for one, you should never just move on from that. You should always
Solidify
play
the
around with it.
knowledge.
Yeah, and then if you follow it one for one, your next scene should be using those techniques on a completely different project that isn't, that scene.
Congrats on 3K subs, by the way. That happened really fast.
Oh yeah, that happened.
How many subs have you gotten in like the last day? Because like
I
last
had-
time I checked, it was like 2.8.
No, during the it's really weird. It's like I think that professional 3D environments with Blender, that video is getting me like the most subs even still. The
Oh, yeah.
actual like the it's like when I upload now, like for example the God's Valley video, that actually didn't like get that many subs. For example, I think it's more just like the tutorials. That's when people are like, oh, okay, I want to follow along because this is useful to me. But when I just upload like something I think is pretty, it doesn't really, garner the same attention. But I don't mind. It's all fun.
Something I've been thinking
yeah.
about lately that I'm gonna try and get on in like the coming weeks is I want to start doing like really short form content, like doing YouTube shorts, and just like do a quick overview of like, so then I layer the things and render it out. Cool. And then like put that out there because shorts like pop off in the algorithm.
Yeah.
Like I've seen from like creators I follow, they'll be like, oh, I just like randomly did this short and I have plus 5,000% engagement on my channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Dennis are working on a short for like creating star fields and stuff. So
Nice. I was gonna have Dennis edit them because I hate editing.
yeah.
But like when
I'm
you
gonna
do
use
shorts,
this
like
I'm gonna use this to clickbait people hard.
yeah, but do you guys like when you make shorts, do you guys like do just like a teaser, like go to the actual channel to see how it's made, or do you make like a
I'm
mini
probably
tutorial?
going to. So right now, my idea is I'm probably gonna not do that. I'm probably just gonna do the short, like the Ian Hubert like 1 minute tutorial things that he has. Do something kind of like that.
Yeah.
I might even do it a little bit more of like a TikTok-y kind of thing where it's like me with the footage above me, me talking video, and then like the sludge content footage of what I'm talking about above me.
Please
and
no
like
sludge content. Please no sludge content.
the sludge content is going to be what I'm talking about.
Fair
like
enough.
GTA while you're building a grass walled environment.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's going to be like me, and then like above me the video feed of what I'm talking about, and then like 1 minute long. And right now I'm planning on like that is just the content. But if I like if it does well and I want to create a Patreon, I think what I'd probably do is like have the longer version of it like on Patreon or make longer form versions on
Yeah. I've noticed with my content, like it's an hour long, so people, I really try with the timestamps to like have people like still be able to follow along with a long tutorial by if they want to skip, they can see exactly what I'm talking about at what time and stuff. But yeah,
an issue for me is I use a lot of like on top of like Quixel and stuff, I'll use a lot of paid assets.
Yeah.
And I noticed with my one environment I had where I had like the big, medium, small assets, there was literally like a 30% dip in viewership when I showed the price of the assets.
Yeah, I have the same. Like, I am now like with GeoScatter. I'm like, by the way, these guys of the owner, I guess, or like the creator of GeoScatter, he's so nice and like he's been super helpful. And like I've talked with him, and I'm like doing a lot of my work fully with his like add-on, right? But at the same time, like that's like a big bit of an issue where I'm like, I want to make these tutorials, but I don't want to feel like a sellout. I don't want to make people feel like I'm just doing like an extensive ad for this add-on.
It's kind of hard sometimes because like if you go to any other software, like if you go to like Cinema 4D, 3ds Max, anything like that, any tutorials there, because they're geared for like people who want to do like things professionally.
Yeah,
it's always like, so here's my $5,000 in add-ons and assets that I use to make this, and everybody just goes, oh wow, good, like good to know, thank you for this knowledge. In Blender, you're like, here's a $5 add-on that I have, and people are like, how dare you sell out and use a paid asset? And it's like,
that is so deep.
It's
I love
also
Blender
like, especially in assets. Like if you're not paying for assets, like your assets aren't going to be as good of quality. Like that's an unfortunate reality. Is the paid assets are a lot nicer. And so
That
if you
is-
want something to look really nice, like, yeah, you can do all free things, but you're going to have to do so much more of the legwork because you're going to have to
Yeah.
take this free thing and push it yourself rather than like, oh, here's a big, medium, small character that I just used right out the box, or that I, blended two
Mhm.
big, medium, small characters together to make an original one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, to get that, I would have to go into Character Creator,
So
or like use Blender human thing and then like do painting on top of it, then use Blender's like horrendous like cloth sim stuff to make the
Yeah.
so it's really like you like if so I don't really use that many paid add-ons and assets in my um in my videos, right? Just because there aren't
Mhm.
many like obviously like the world creator tutorials and like my landscape stream, they did have some like obviously Quixel and world creator, but like that's really the only ones. I don't even use add-ons for modeling really. I have box cutter, but I rarely use it. But it's like you also like that's really a double-edged sword because people are like, thank you for making everything free, but then they don't watch your tutorial because it's 3 hours long. Right, so it's a weird
and that's
thing.
kind of what I was saying. Like the trade-off is like if you're gonna not use paid stuff, lots of times it's more work to get there.
Mhm.
And so like
Yeah.
what I was saying with like the characters or whatever, it's like now I've turned this 2-day project into like a 3-month project because now I have to learn character modeling and all sorts of stuff to have a
Yeah.
character in my scene.
I mean,
I
it's
think
not
it
the-
also
it's not the
comes
shame,
to
right?
like it also comes to like the point of what you're making. Like a lot of my stuff, I have a lot more like narrative built in where it's like it's about these characters in a situation, or like or I try and always have like a narrative element. And I think that that's where, because I'm not like a character artist, it comes like I need to buy characters, otherwise I'm just gonna have like really crappy characters,
Yeah.
and that's gonna hurt the like quality of my output like significantly.
It is definitely a Blender thing, though. I mean, it's like I was the same. Like I started for the longest time. I was just trying to do everything for basically just like no money, just so like doing everything out of the box myself. But yeah, that at the end of the day, like even if you look up like tree models in Blender, tree modeling in Blender, the trees look so bad in those tutorials, and you have these great channels that like do everything completely in Blender, and the results they get at the end, often I just found myself looking at it kind of like, oh yeah, this is not really what I'm going for. So at some point, like I know it's of course you are gonna invest money, so it is something you have to think about. But at some point, I think I just said like, okay, I clearly love this like doing this thing, and I just want to get better at it. So I'm just gonna go and invest a little bit of money to get tools that speed me up and also better results.
Fellas, my first ever tutorial was a tree tutorial.
Yeah, I saw this one, and I was like, this is the first time I seen a decent looking tree in
That
Blender.
is probably like one of the best looking like Blender trees too.
Yeah. But how heavy is it?
It's pretty heavy. All the pine stuff are just they're like hair particles. So it's a little bit crazy.
But and like I am sympathetic to people who like you have financial restrictions. Like I didn't have any money when I was my first couple of years in Blender was using. I was one of those people that was like, oh, but everything needs to be free because if it costs money, I can't do it or I can't use it. Because I didn't have the money to. And so I am sympathetic to that. But then it is one of those things where it's like, then you just have to accept, like if you are financially restricted, then you just need to accept the trade-off. And I think that it is just a Blender thing where it's like, there's some sort of like shaming towards not making everything absolutely free. And that's a thing that I think kind of needs to go away, because it's like, yes, there is a place for me to teach you how to do this thing. But when I post a thing and I have like, oh, how to make, like realistic forest environments, and I have, like a big, medium, small character in there, it's like, well, I'm not teaching you how to make characters. So me using a paid character isn't me, tricking you into thinking you're getting something you're not. But
every video would turn into just like a giant course if
exactly.
Like with my with the abandoned house tutorial that I made, I used Substance Painter for that house. And people were like very, very upset.
Yeah.
And I just had to be like, I'm showing you my workflow. Like I'm not like, responsible for you.
Which the thing is until literally like a couple months ago, you could get Substance for free with a student license. So
Yeah.
it's like if you're a young student that doesn't have money, it's like you can use it free, non-commercial. So why are you getting mad at me that I went outside of Blender? Whereas now they're with the Adobe thing, so now you can't anymore. But that was a thing until like literally a couple months ago.
That was like my main thing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you go ahead, Sam.
I was just gonna say I really need to up my thumbnail game. This is probably my best tutorial where it's like completely mute. Most people think I asked some people about. Most people just thought I posted a real image of Saturn like in the thumbnail, but no, that's like the actual result of the tutorial. It's like what the fuck. I need to make sure people know that I'm not just like BSing them.
That's where you do like a bullshit, like even though it's not real, you just do half the screen as a wireframe. Just like make a wireframe.
Yeah, that's what I do.
That'd be a good thumbnail, actually.
I just get my AO.
Wireframe sphere, even if this is all like world shader, just to like let people know it's CG. And it's like, it was clickbait or whatever to make you think that you're going to have a wireframe version of this world shader thing. But you know what? Well, I wanted you to know it wasn't a real image.
It's not really. This one isn't a world shader.
Oh, okay. Right.
It's just.
But yeah, the whole, that's what I'm saying with like my tutorial, like upcoming. It's going to be, and I'm kind of scared because this God's Valley video, it's going to be 90% geoscatter. And it's going to be a lot of like geoscatter manual scatter, which is like a feature that is very hard to replicate, I guess, if you are going to make the geonodes yourself.
Hey,
so yeah,
like to anybody watching, Gscatter is free and it probably has a lot of the functionalities that like you can probably there. It might be a little less convenient, but like they have powerful scattering tools for free.
Also,
what is the manual scatter and why is it difficult to reproduce? Because I don't use any add-ons for scattering.
So like it's manual scatter is literally, I can just post an image real quick of what the UI
does it have any sort of like special functionalities? Because I'm not familiar with.
Oh, so much. Okay, here I'll post it in the chat like the UI. So you have, it's basically coded in like this is some Python programming, and like you have on the left you can see all these different tools of like how you're gonna scatter a paint or even like chain link stuff together. And like, for example, I literally did everything. Like the fence is a scatter layer, and that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, you can like manually hand place, but with geoscatter, you can just select the chain, and then you can just draw whatever shape the fence has to be, and it's there. So like those kinds of those kinds of functionality plus just manually scattering, which you see me do here, is really easy because weight painting everything. It's a bit of a workaround. You constantly have to go weight paint and then go back, and then of course your item needs to have enough polygons. So if you want to get really accurate, you need enough like how do you call it, subdiv.
So does this
on your
use
plane
some sort of
paint.
like world coordinates thing then, or like how does
how is it
scattering?
I have no. It literally makes us. You just click manual scatter. It makes. I think it literally is just instancing on that place. It is. I don't know how it works, but
like if you're pinpointing like a specific thing, like it has to be defined somehow. I wonder if it's using some sort of like
you can delete the. You can like it moves. That's also awesome. Like I was manually painting, and it just moves with the object and stuff.
Yeah.
Only if you go in edit mode or something, then it kind of changes. Like then it can start floating. But like I use manual scatter for like almost every project because one, it's a little less heavy than like if you make a normal scatter. It's just the density or something, like the calculations are heavier. Manual scatter has like very light load on your PC. So, and also it's so accurate, like you can literally just scatter only where you need it, right? So like those little clumps along the road, like just a little manual scatter, just like here, and then you can move on. And yeah,
Yeah, see, that seems nice because for me, I have to crank the subdivisions with
Yeah.
the weight paint.
yeah, exactly.
same,
And that's why manual scatter on geoscatters are unmatched.
I
Like,
do think though, if
Or make an image.
if you are gonna plan on making a big tutorial, I think it might be worth to just do it for free with the basic vanilla.
I'm like doing the whole tutorial on YouTube, but I'm worried that like people are gonna get click on it, be excited to like learn how he did this shot, and then they're gonna be like, shit, he's using a paid add-on.
Oh no. What I mean is it may be worth it to use the vanilla geometry nodes for scattering.
Oof, yeah. Well, I mean,
for
already,
the video.
I mean, already made. I just recorded my actions making the shot, so I'm just gonna do
Okay, never mind.
yeah. I'm not planning on doing it all over again.
It'll be
but-
okay.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the people won't be too disappointed in the fact that it's going to use a paid add-on.
It's the cost of quality stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like for my course that I'm developing on urban environments, like the requirement is like 100% of it is free.
Yeah,
I know.
that's what
I'm in talks with CG Boost about a course, and that's like one of the hardest things for me is like if I want to have like trees or like a lot of my workflow does revolve around like speed tree and like paid stuff.
Foliage is
It's like I can get around, it's like, okay, I can use G scatter over scatter 5 like that, I'll have 20 minutes of extra work over the course of the entire project. It's not that big of a deal. But then when it comes to like, okay, how do I teach you guys how to use create foliage in Blender? Because the way I do it is using proprietary tools from Graswald for Graswald's, uses. I can't teach people using that stuff.
Well, have you reached out to Graswald? Because right now I'm trying to figure out a little bit of a partnership with someone who creates trees, because I need like some palm trees. So I'm gonna like collaborate with them and try to get the palm trees, and then
G-Build is like their add-on for how they create their.
But
own
like for between
inside
CG Boost and Graswald, could you have a partnership where they give you some assets for free, and then you can distribute it for the course?
Because that is one of the things that we were talking about.
Okay.
Is the workaround.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast your viewport is, Sam. I am like, when I have like high
yeah, this
quality
is
scatters,
crazy.
My computer, like the viewport is unusable. Like I render everything out to like see what it looks like, because if I open the viewport, it's just like dead.
I wish I had Sam's viewport performance.
Yeah,
like
jeez.
I would be able to like kind of half do this. Like it'd be way slower and way more laggy.
This is called Patreon money that's being reinvested.
Yeah.
What is the poly count on these trees?
I think they're like a few 100,000, right?
Yeah, a few 100,000 to 1 million.
Okay.
They look really good. Was it your trees, Jared? Like the...
No,
I think he's using his trees for this right now.
Oh, okay. They look good, Sam.
Yeah,
I will
this
share
is
with you guys
fantastic.
some of my other ones.
This is an example.
Have some that
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Sam. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this is an example. I pulled this up because this is what geometry nodes can do. These aren't even using G-scatter or anything. This is just like literally I can drag and drop this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go into the geonodes thing. Yeah, that way I can sort of edit stuff.
Does it just like use like a Musgrave texture to like separate certain like biomes or something, like the rocks and the trees, or
just regular noise?
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's a very chaotic node.
Okay, great. Jesus. That node setup scares me.
Yeah, it scares me too. Yeah, if I turn the rock coverage down to like 0, you can see I can just kill shit. These are old rocks though. I need to update this. I've made some better rocks. Oops, it's gonna take a little while.
Yeah, I'm planning on when I do my landscape stuff, I'm probably just gonna use like Quixel rocks. I'm just gonna use like
Quixel rocks
Lod 5 of them or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean Quixel rocks do the trick, But
yeah.
This is my biggest like ecosystem project, because like it's got so many different types of trees and such, and it actually looks sort of decent. These aspects,
yeah, it looks pretty solid.
I think they look pretty cool.
Great. Mm-hmm. They look great.
Yeah.
Did you guys catch my environment stream, by the way?
I did.
You did?
I think I'm in the comment section talking
Yeah,
to some guy.
you were grilling him about alpha trees.
Proof.
Grilling him, yeah. Alpha trees, get out of here, dude.
Yeah,
That's one of the like if you use alpha trees, you get banned from my Discord. That's how it works.
Wait, what is
Only-
alpha trees?
It's like these tree cards. It's smart. It's definitely
Yeah.
smart.
Oh, it's tree cards.
I'll
It's they
show
use
you.
these tree cards.
It's an
that,
add-on,
like,
I think, right?
Yeah, you can also make them
Yeah.
yourself. I used to do
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but the thing
There
is,
was a
you can see their
Zacharias
2D.
Reinhardt tutorial
Have you guys
about
seen?
it.
Yeah.
Like 8 years ago.
Have you guys?
Yeah, I think I used that one.
Have you
I did
guys seen
too, yeah.
this?
Oh yeah, I've seen that as well.
Yeah, that was Nugget. I keep mentioning him because he deserves to get mentioned. So this is for Eevee.
Yeah,
which
for
you
Eevee it
can't
makes
really
sense because for
Yeah.
Eevee you cannot do the instancing thing. Like it will kill your. Yeah, Eevee does not perform
So-
well.
It looks really good, actually.
Yeah, so the way he's doing this is he's using ray marching. So you get the
What is marching?
Oh, he's using ray marching for these?
yeah. So
But
you
these are like
basically
slightly
take-
3D.
Ah.
they're slightly 3D, but
Yeah,
Ray marching is kind of like the parallax stuff, right?
yeah,
Just
Oh,
in a
okay.
simple, yeah.
that's
He-
super cool.
Okay.
he
Yeah.
developed a method to take multiple images and just sort of convert them into a 3D model, sort of like photogrammetry, but like in a shader,
Yeah,
which
Mm.
is what he's doing here, which is why it looks like that.
It's so wild that that's a thing. Like that blows my mind.
Yeah,
It seems like this is like the future of like
Yeah, I think
Object.
we were kind of talking about like the ray marching and like world shader stuff, and I think that there's gonna be like a future where in kind of DCCs you're gonna have like everything kind of work through shaders in a way. I think it is a way to avoid having so much in terms of like polygons and
Mhm.
stuff.
yeah.
I'm
yeah.
gonna send this
I'll
stream
see you
to
guys.
Nugget afterwards.
I'm gonna have to bounce.
All right.
All right.
But this was super duper fun. Really enjoyed the convo.
See, I
No
got to
worries.
bounce in like 20 minutes too. So
Yeah,
Okay,
I
we
wanted
can do it
to
live.
share my screen with you, Sam. I wanted to show off my new trees.
Let's see
Peace,
them.
guys.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Hey, yeah, have a good one, Cov.
Yeah, see you, man.
Peace.
peace, love, and plants, yo.
Now the real nerd shit begins. Time for trees. Let's see them.
This is these are my new trees. They go down to, I think this one is, what's that, how much is it? I want to say it's like 600,000.
They look so good.
700,000.
They're like extremely fuzzy.
Yeah, I'm actually really proud of this. I also haven't done much like shader tweaking and stuff. I just did like a quick little hue sat adjustment. So this one is 1 million. This one's 700,000. But I think I can get this one down looking like this one, or down to like that poly count.
I have a question.
I'm planning on tweaking them a little bit more, but yeah.
For the needles, because I just use like the Quixel has a few needle atlases,
Yeah.
and like I just make in Blender, I make like a little, how do you say it, like a sort of cross section where I just put two planes and I rotate them, so like they're slightly
90
3D.
degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like these needles are more like are they like it kind of look like leaves, because those like the ones I make, they have to be used as fronds because they're kind of like a twig with needles coming out of them, rather than like the fuzzy needles you have on this tree, like the really rounded ones.
I just
What's
so
how
let me
complex is the leaf
grab-
object for this?
I pretty much stole his technique for making
So-
needles and shit.
I
Yeah, 'cause
am
I'm-
using on my low poly ones. It literally is just two planes rotated against each other, 90 degrees. But
Yeah.
it is it's not a full frond. It's just the needles basically. So you can kind of see in here, and these ones hold up pretty well in
Yeah.
most situations. But you can see this is so much fuzzier.
Mhm.
And the difference between these really isn't that much. Like I think this one's like 400,000. These ones were all like about 400 to 500,000,
Yeah.
and this one's about this one's 750,000. So like there is a decent difference, but like the quality jump is so massive between them. And so for these ones here, I'll import real fast. Let me or FBX.
Speaking of importing, I wish Blender would recognize like similar or the same node groups and then just like not import new ones every time.
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
when like the material nodes, like you get the 0.001
Yeah,
stuff.
it's so
Yeah.
frustrating.
I have an add-on that like cleans it. It's called like M Cleaner, and it's like it detects like same name like materials with like the 001 stuff, and then like instantly merges
that's
them.
right.
But on a big scene, it'll blow up your computer.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, it's a free add-on, I think. M Cleaner.
I gotta check that out. That would be so helpful.
One sec. Let me. I'm
Somebody
trying to find
somebody's
my.
asking. The trunk is a mega scan, right? You just got it from Quickscope.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what's cool about them is I'm using the photogrammetry blending in
Mhm.
the trunks. So the trunks are like super high quality too.
Yeah. Yeah, so like on
Um,
SpeedTree, for Saber Potato Boy, SpeedTree has an option where you can import like a mesh. You can import like a trunk mesh, and then you can add a branch on top of that using a stitch node. So they basically do the blending for you. You do have to find a trunk PBR texture that's very similar to the texture of the
there we go.
Megascan's trunk. But in SpeedTree, they do like a really nice texture blend, and it's pretty much not noticeable if you do it right.
Yeah,
I mean,
so you can actually see on this one.
yeah,
It just needs like a little adjustment in the shader, but you can see this section right here is
yeah.
between the two textures.
That's basically the stitch right there, but like
Yeah.
it looks like your trunk texture is not completely matching with the mesh
Yeah,
texture.
it doesn't super great. So with these these were kind of a quicker test to see about like the polygons and how well they held up.
Yeah.
So I think this one maybe holds up, but one of them held up like pretty
I think
well.
the center one looks pretty good.
Yeah, this one holds up pretty well. It kind of just gets
Yeah.
like a little bit darker, and then yeah, like this one, it also just kind of gets darker, which you actually see with real trees lots of times. Is
Yeah.
the more exposed area down at the base will be lighter,
Mhm.
and then it'll kind of color change, or vice versa sometimes.
But it is a
But,
little bit of a trick, right? Yeah,
yeah.
to get it to looking right.
This is a messed up
Ah.
version, but like that's the like mesh that's being used.
Is that
here.
individual needles or is that a lot of needles? Like I can't. Is the texture
Here, one
like at
sec.
one needle?
So it's one needle, I think, that I
Oh.
had as a card. One sec, let me get the opacity in on this, so you can actually see what's going on
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
So then
I
it
see
looks
now.
like that. So
Mm,
I
not
had like, so it's out of one atlas set in
Mhm.
in Megascan, so it's all the same texture.
Yeah.
And then I just cut out a couple different ones and then put them together, and like each one is up, for vertice plane. And then I just
Yeah.
kind of made a little thing. And then I did that with a couple different ones, and I think I have like 4 different of these.
Yeah. So
And
again,
then
for
that
the
makes
chat,
these.
the guy in chat's asking. So yeah, what like Jared is doing? He's basically making a mesh, like with using some planes and atlases, for the needles or leaves in this case, and then in SpeedTree you can just import this mesh and its material, and then just use that on your SpeedTree, and it looks a lot better than like trying to do the. But in SpeedTree, I also have like that tool to make out like cutouts, but it looks really bad.
Yeah, I made this in Blender, exported it as an FBX, and then in
Yeah.
SpeedTree you go File, Import Mesh Asset there,
Yeah.
and then when you generate your leaves, you can go to, I think it's actually under Material.
Mhm.
You go in there and you can select the mesh.
Yeah, or
to
you
use.
can just a mesh cutout. From
Yeah.
that tab you can instantly also import.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that looks way better. When you told me that, I was like, yeah. Honestly, I've been messing around with this speed tree, like I don't even know what you call it, like their little system, but it's so weird. So yeah, it helped a lot to just make it in Blender.
Yeah, having the like photogrammetry base, and then I did use a trick from Sam that he pointed out that I hadn't thought of before, but you can actually dynamically reduce the amount of polygons in like the trunk onto the resolution, so you can sync it lower. So like in the middle area here, it's a lower resolution trunk, and then it gets higher resolution towards the top when it kind of becomes visible again.
Yeah.
And so it's like higher res here,
Did
higher
you also
res there.
use my opacity blurring trick?
I don't think so.
Martin, do you know the like you can blur the opacity on like pine needles, and then it makes the tree look a little bit thicker?
Oh, that's also smart. So you make.
Oh yeah, you were talking about that. No, I didn't use that on this. It is literally just this guy color corrected a little bit.
Looks great though. It looks. I don't know. It's just like.
And then I am using your leaf shader on these, Sam.
Oh,
I love to see my stuff get used.
Did you share the leaf shader, Sam? Like on our private chat or?
I'm pretty sure I did.
Okay.
I'm planning on doing my own version of it though, because there's some things that I was playing around with before that aren't in there that I want to add in. That are more like custom controls, but yeah.
You can ping me about it and I'll see what I can do if you want. I ain't gonna stop you from making your own thing. I just like to make stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just want to share that because I was really happy with how close they are in quality to my higher poly like photogrammetry ones.
Yeah. No, I'm like working on trying to make as low poly as I can. So my like the ones that you see in the God's Valley shot there, you have to break down like the Norway spruce ones are probably like I think 600k just polygons in general. I don't know how many faces, but 600k vertices. And then like the other trees, I got them all the way down to like 200k. But that was fully by like making a lot of the twigs, making them just like also 2D planes. That like kind of like the gaming tree method where it's actually like the twigs and branches.
Yeah, where it's like cards.
Yeah.
Hey,
so I've done
Jared,
my goal with these was to kind of okay, I wanted to show like these real fast. Sorry, I had it kind of I had this screen kind of weird because I was doing like a filming thing for my Instagram. Oops. But these are like all like 4 or I think the lowest one of these is like 5 million polygons. Because I set out with these ones, I just wanted to make like the most hero tree, But so the idea is like if I needed like a really close up, like high quality cinema tree, I would use like one of these. And then if I wanted to use like more of a like not super close up, but just like kind of a closer to camera tree, I could use one of those like mid poly ones. And then for like the general scattering in the distance, I would be using like the low poly ones that I have that are like 300 to 450,000 polygons.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to take that log scene that I just did, and I want to kind of expand the forest out, like using different layers and like create a landscape behind it, and like have the camera like pan up through the trees. And so I'd probably like use these like for really up close, like cameras coming right through here. And I'd probably only have like I'd only have like 1 or 2 of these, like coming right in between like these two, and then have the other ones for like everything past that.
No, that's gonna be awesome
like
if you do
all
that,
the distant stuff.
100%. Go for it. I want to see that shot. That's like also kind of, I guess, what I wanted to do with God's Valley is like close up and far away at the same time.
No, absolutely. My screen. I just want to show you guys the conifer pack thing.
Let's see. Yes.
It's actually got a reasonable number of assets.
What kind of trees are these? Like what the?
So these are like oak trees, and then these are like some. I don't really know the specific.
They're kind of like a lodgepole pine.
Yeah, they
got some dead ones, then some aspens.
Cool. Nice. What do you guys like more? Do you like conifer or like broadleaf? Like the bigger. Because I
I'm very
find like
these guys.
Yeah, the pine trees look better. I don't know why, but like when I make pine trees, I'm like, oh, clean. But
I
like when I make
think
broadleaf, I'm like never really satisfied.
I think broadleafs are kind of prettier, but I prefer pine personally. But
Yeah,
I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so we got pine. Everything here is pine forests, and so it might just be a little personal bias. But
maybe. I'm like, I mean, I love
I think you
mountains,
can
so
do more
pines.
interesting things with broadleaf too, where you can like mix in like the fall patches, or like
Yeah.
have kind of transitional seasons a bit more than you can with like pine. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
What kind of shrubs are those, Sam?
I have no
Like the
idea.
small.
I just
You
saw
just
them
put.
on a reference image and just made them.
What kind of leaves do you use then? Like I'm.
I use like some. I'll show you. Give me a second.
Yeah, because that's like my thing. I'm like I don't have that many. Of course, Quixel offers some like needle atlases and stuff, but
Yeah.
they don't. For example, like I wanted to make. I'm making like a beach tree, and like I had to like find a beach tree in real life and take pictures, and I need to now make like PBR textures for them.
Mm.
Because
So
it's
that's
very
actually a
hard to
thing I
find.
do with Graswald. I
Mm,
use their leaves
mm-hmm.
as the leaf mesh in SpeedTree. And you can
Oh,
use like their really low poly ones, and it's actually more efficient than well, it's only one step less efficient than having like a 4D or 4-point like
yeah,
plane. If you have even like a 4-point plane with one level of subdivision, they have fewer vertices
yeah, yeah.
on their lowest ones. So I did that with like my oak tree, is I used like their oak
Mm,
leaf, and then they actually have a really nice beech leaf.
okay, yeah. Then I'll use that.
Martin,
Yeah.
I'm using these sorts of leaves. I
Yeah,
forget the exact one.
they look really nice. They're really fuzzy and very
These are a
interesting
bit.
plant.
These are a bit more high poly than I really wanted them to be, but I mean it's kind of fine. I don't
Ah,
really
it
care
looks
too
good.
much.
Yeah. No, that looks the pack looks good. Too bad you can't sell it. Oh,
I
speed
know,
tree
right?
bastards.
Speed tree, come
No,
on.
no, no, no. Actually, we
The
need
one thing
next.
that I'm like really good at making is plants in
Yeah,
speed tree, and I can't sell them.
we're just
Why can't I be
actually
a hard surface modeler or something?
now we're just gonna like claim it was.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure
made
there's
these in
other.
Max Tree. Yep.
Wait,
These are
there's
all
like
Max
a.
Tree.
I'm thinking
Grove.
there's like I'm thinking there's one that's like um it's called like Vu or something, and it's like they have like a plant library, and like they actually allow people to sell, and like I
Mm,
feel like that's such a bet like way better system to just like have people who
yeah.
model their stuff. Like imagine if Blender was like, yeah, what you make in Blender you can't sell it. It's like it seems so
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree.
Blender is like the
It's because
complete
SpeedTree
opposite.
has such a monopoly that like
Yeah.
anything that threatens their monopoly, they don't want to. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's but it's
they
just
can get
weird to
away
me.
with it. Yeah, it's annoying, and it's like not user friendly in that way, or consumer friendly is the.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
feel like they're actually very not friendly to their consumers either because like their documentation is out of date. Like in a lot of places, they have like
Yeah,
no
when we were
tutorials that are
talking, and I was like,
recent.
"Oh yeah, here's the thing," and then I sent you, and I was like, "Wait, this isn't what I had. Wait, hold
Yeah,
on." And it
it's
was like
literally
their
just
latest
like
documentation for SpeedTree 9. I sent you, and I was like, "Wait, this is out of date from what I was using." And then
yeah,
you shared your
literally.
thing, and I was like, "Oh," and then that's newer than the version I was using. Yeah, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the documentation is so bad."
Yeah, so I mean, I can't stand companies like that. I'm like, you
Yeah,
make good software, but like, it's kind of like, I guess like how Maxon treats like their customers for
yeah.
cinema, and Adobe somewhat. Not that I mean, Adobe products are good and they're pretty like
Yeah.
well documented,
I
but
think Adobe is probably like in terms of like people who have a monopoly that aren't the most consumer friendly.
yeah,
I think Adobe is actually one of the least horrible
yeah.
offenders in that way.
It's just that After Effects crashes on
Yeah.
pivotal moments, and then I cry.
Yeah, the After Effects crashing or
Yeah.
Premiere crashing is like a meme.
Literally, it's so unstable,
Yeah.
but yeah, I can't stop now. I've been using it for so many years. I'm stuck with
Mm.
Adobe.
Yeah, I use them like I use Lightroom. I use Premiere just because I usually do
Yeah.
pretty quick, simple edits. I'm not doing anything too crazy.
Hmm.
And then I use Photoshop a fair bit as well. And I do like. I also have a little bit of a background in like doing graphic design and like UX
Yeah.
UI stuff, and
Yeah,
so
same.
I do appreciate that like everything that they put out in terms of like all of their fonts and all of that stuff is like you can use that commercially.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. No, I
This
think
is-
Adobe is probably one of the best packages you can buy, but their
Yeah.
products just crash up in moments where I
Mhm.
just want to kill them.
Yeah,
I was like, fucking insane.
and they're expensive. Other than those
Yeah.
two things, they're actually really not too bad.
I mean, for me, it's not being expensive because again, with student license, I
Yeah.
can get the whole Adobe like Creative Cloud package for
Is,
100
like-
euros for as a student for a year. Like it's wild to me. Like
Oh,
that's
wow.
pretty cheap.
That's so much
and
better
you-
than mine. Mine's like $30 a month
Yeah, that's
for
what
the
I'm
student
scared for.
package in the US.
Yeah, I'm about to finish studying, and then I'll have to like pay to like what $60 a month for like their main things. Oh, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, fun stuff.
this
I'm
is
not
one of
happy
my-
with all the subscriptions.
Yeah, I know, right?
This is one of my favorite greebles I've ever made.
Yeah, that looks. I mean,
This is gonna
It's
be
super-
so intense to texture. Like I'm
Yeah.
already
I'm
like.
sorry.
At first, you're like, "Yeah, I'll also UV unwrap everything for you," and then you're like, "Yeah, I'll hand it to you early," and I'm like, "Is it UV unwrapped?" And you're like, "No." I'm like,
good luck.
"Ugh."
That's it's part of the texture
My
artist's
heart-
job.
I
Oh.
know. I
Oh.
hate UV unwrapping.
Not always. Sometimes it's model.
Yeah.
This asset, for instance, is UV unwrapped, but that's like the
Mm.
only
Okay.
one. But that is one of the tougher ones. I need to do this.
Yeah,
Most of this should be pretty simple UV though. Like,
Yeah.
there's only a few
I
cuts.
also like the triplanar projection and
Yeah.
is really handy. You
Mhm.
barely even need UVs
Mhm.
in Substance nowadays.
Yeah. Also, me and Jared were talking about like how to release this because we do want it to be like a paid model. But what I
Mhm.
thought was like, what I think, and I talked to you about this. I think I got your seal of approval. Is like,
Yeah.
I'll sell the model for free when it's done, but then the textured version, it's gonna be marketed. Because like this,
Make
is
sure
an
you don't.
excellent-
Yeah.
like
Just
this
like mess up all the UVs on the free model though.
Well,
Yeah, sell it without the UVs.
Yeah, just delete
delete all the
like-
UVs and sell it that way.
Yeah,
It's
something like that.
horrible. You may only look at it in clay render mode.
Yeah, you can only see the clay render.
Well, like even then though, like it might not be. You can just slap a material on it. It'll probably be
Yeah,
pretty
probably.
good.
That is also like the other side of it, because I'm not good at like modeling or whatever. A lot of what I do is I'll find models online and then I'll do all the texture work and stuff. And I'm like,
Mhm.
it'd be so nice if I could just like team up with this random person to like sell this nice textured version of their model. Like that'd be great because
Mhm.
I just did all this work and it'd be cool to like be able to sell it too.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
I
But
think
since
that's
I
where-
didn't model the model, it would obviously, not
Yeah.
be ethical to resell,
I
even
think
with
that's-
like UV unwrap.
How would that
texture
work?
version of
Yeah.
it.
What if you
But-
just don't sell the model? You just sell the UV unwrap file.
Well, that's like how would I even, I could also
Yeah.
just like sell and be like, here's the download link for the model and here's my textured version of it, or here's the
Yeah.
textures for it. I'm selling the textures, not the model. But then I also have done UV unwrapping and stuff, so now it's like, okay, well now it's a UV
Yeah.
unwrapped version of the model, and yeah,
I
it's complicated, not fun.
it definitely is.
Yeah.
Damn, Sam. So, how long have you been working on this one model then? Because this is intense.
I stopped working on it like a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
I was just fixing a bevel there. Yeah, that's much better. But so these thrusters, let me just isolate everything. These thrusters are like crazy. I don't think a lot of people really see the full detail. These ones
Yeah,
took
that's
like
wild.
4 weeks or something.
Mm,
It's like well worth
I can
it.
see why.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys want to like a crazy pro tip?
What?
I want
Spend like $30 on a like gaming mouse that has like 12 side buttons,
Oh,
and then map those to functions in Blender. I literally can operate Blender with one hand.
Really?
that actually sounds pretty smart.
Yeah, like I can orbit, well, like obviously I orbit, but like I can pan through the viewport. I can like that I have that button that you just click, like the extras or like outline and stuff. I
Yeah.
have that mapped to it, so I can turn that on and off on my mouse. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, all the like I have like front, side, and top view mapped in. Uh I have rotate mapped. I have
Mm.
yeah. It's
That
great. I love it.
I really need
I'm
to get into that.
so much more efficient now that I've done that.
Yeah, honestly, I need to get into like creating hotkeys for my bike because I'm again boomer, just like clicking everything manually, slowly. I mean, I'm
I
getting
was until
pretty
so
fast in it,
recently.
but
Like when I started working for Graswald again, I took the time to
mm,
map some things, and because it was also like I was doing 80% of the work with one hand anyways, and then I was like, why don't I just map this to like a function on my mouse, and then I can literally all the work I do in Graswald I can do one-handed now, which is great
okay,
because then with
that's
my
good.
other hand I can like pick my nose or something.
Eat ice cream. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right, I think it's about
Yeah.
time I go as well. It's been what,
Same.
2.5 hours or
Yeah,
more.
I think this is a good
yeah,
length for.
I'm just starting to poke holes in my own models now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're
So
like Jared, don't look when you.
yeah, I'm not sure if we're planning to do this next week. If we do, I think we might
might
experiment with
be
like some
might be like a blender using type
yeah,
thing.
like a more technical. I was thinking like a blender build battle sort of, which might be pretty cool.
Oof,
Yeah,
blend.
or the parallel build thing was
That's
another
that's pretty
idea
Yeah.
wild.
too.
That might be
Yeah,
fun. We need to plan that out a little bit more
Yeah, that would.
beforehand.
yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, like creating assets and such. I think that
hmm
might be really cool though. Just like sort of working together to make a scene, just sort of
Yeah.
parallelizing our stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool with me. Um, yeah, Martin,
All
if you're
right.
willing, I'd love to be on your Discord. I'll bring some activity.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Again, as I said, there's not that much going on. Some people are now joining. That's actually that's a funny story I still wanted to tell. Is I recently made like a sort of like promotional post just on the community thing on my YouTube channel, and I was promoting like one of those tutorials that I like uploaded there. And then in the comment section of that community post, somebody was asking if I could just give him the information. And I was like, oh, I love this so much, man. Like, the just amazing how people would ask. Like,
Oh, I saw
I
that.
was
I
like,
think.
I was teasing something on my Patreon, like, hey guys, this is on my Patreon. He was like, but can you just give it to me though?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, but
people will
can
do
I
that.
have it?
People will
Just
do
like,
that. They'll make some reason that they are entitled to it or something. And it's like,
Yeah.
what the
I just
hell?
thought it was really funny.
So,
I didn't mind it. I just thought it was really funny. It's like I think it'd be a little disrespectful to my patrons if I just gave you for free, but yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you on the Patreon, Discord, like, create some ruckus, start a debate, start fighting my patrons,
riot.
do whatever. Yeah, start a riot. Take that cheese guy. He came in, by the way. Like, greetings, cheese bread. So we might have to airdrop him in there. But I don't know. That might do a lot of damage in my Patreon or in Discord since there's not that many people on there. Yeah. So I'll do that. But yeah, it was a good talk.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot. I don't even remember what we all talked about, but it was a lot. So it was all
It
good.
was a lot. Yeah.
It was a lot, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, see you guys later. Have a good one.
Yeah. See ya.
Likewise, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you all for tuning in.